Welcome in. Today, you guys, I wanted to do an updated video swatching and showing you and doing reviews of my massive blush collection. I say it's massive because I have grown it so much recently. I have done a declutter, I want to say within the last 6 months. I didn't declutter that much. It wasn't like a super brutal declutter, but I have grown it even more since then because I'm obsessed with blush. I'm obsessed, and I love cream and liquid blushes. So I've accumulated a lot of those, testing a ton of new to me brands. I might have some blushes in my collection that you guys haven't seen before. Of course, if you are a returning viewer to my channel, I am sure I have talked about every one of these blushes in a video at least once, maybe more. They may not be new to you, but if you guys are new to this video, hi, my name is Carrie. We're gonna be doing full reviews and full swatches, mini reviews. That's really it. We're gonna go through the whole blush collection, cream, powder, liquid, you name it. Let's get into it. This first set of blushes in this basket, if you could believe it, this is all the stuff that was on my vanity. This hasn't gone back into my permanent collection. Some of these I'm not done testing. Some of them just recently went into a speed reviews, so they haven't gone back into my collection yet. So I thought we would go over this basket first. I'm probably gonna take this one from Givenchy first because it's reflective, but I'm gonna kind of set this basket just off to the side there. So this is their Prisme Libre or Prism Libre. I don't know how this is pronounced. I've heard like different pronunciations of this. I'm gonna zoom in just a little bit. This is in Voila Corail, I think it's pronounced. So my only powder blush in my collection. I think it's nice. I just was expecting it to be more punchy. I don't know, maybe the shade, probably because the only other powder blush, loose powder blush that I had was really vibrant. This is a more buildable formula. It's really pretty though, like airbrushing and soft. It's expensive, obviously, being Givenchy, but I don't have a Givenchy product that I don't like. I haven't tested a whole ton, but everything that they've got in their line that I have tested, I really do enjoy. So if you like a buildable formula, honestly, it's fantastic. It's just almost a staining formula. These also just went into a speed reviews. These are the Love Steady blushes from Moira Beauty. I enjoy this formula, very similar to the Juvia's Place, like big doe foot applicator as well. The reason that I really like these is because they're obviously super pigmented. They are way more emollient than some other ones that look similar to this. Like we'll go over those later. I have one from Beauty Bay. I've got the Makeup by Mitchell ones that are more dry of a formula. This has more emollient, super pigmented, nice and opaque, really long lasting. I want to say these stay a little bit dewy. I think I said in my speed reviews that they're more similar to the ones from Rare Beauty, but I actually think they're more similar to the ones from Juvia's Place. They're just a good formula, just easy to work with. Little bit goes a really long way. So conversely, these blushes from Made by Mitchell, they're drier of a formula. They're not as emollient. They're definitely a more matte finish. I have this one in the shade Shy Boy and this one in the shade Peach Sugar, and I do apologize. The ones that I had from Moira, the one that's more pink is in My Darling 04, and then the peach one is Honey Pie. These are like a whipped consistency. They're not as emollient. I mean, they're emollient, they're just not as, I guess, radiant. They definitely dry down to a more powder finish. Doe foot applicator is a little different as well. It's like smaller. Still super opaque. It's just that they're just drier. You can even see like how much drier of a formula they are. They dry down to a super matte finish, and like they're super staining. You guys will see when I try and take them off. I have two here from Cara Beauty. I call it Cara Beauty. I don't necessarily know. I need to zoom in some more, like how you pronounce it. I've heard it both ways. These are the Soft Serve Lip and Cheek Whips. These are super vibrant shades. This one is Cherry on Top and this one is Cara Cara Mousse. They're so punchy because they're so pigmented and opaque, so I don't get a ton of use out of them, but I feel like they're like a really cool, interesting formula. Just very different in my collection. It's literally like soft serve in a pot. Basically like an amped up version of putty. It's just different. It's not a putty formula necessarily. It's more whipped than that. More emollient. Other than how I've just described it, it's definitely hard to describe. I feel like even though some of my shades are pretty vibrant, this one I can kind of put a dot on my hand and then bounce like a damp sponge into it, and I can diffuse some of the color out in this, or just really any of these like liquid blushes like this. But this one is so much harder to do that because even if I pick it up on like a pretty damp sponge, it still packs so much pigment. I don't know, it just doesn't diffuse out like super well. It's just very, very vibrant, and so I don't, again, get a ton of use out of it because of that reason. It's kind of a little bit messy too, so I just don't find myself reaching for these that often. But if you like super vibrant blushes, they're definitely interesting formula to check out. Here is the Made by Mitchell ones. By the way, my little niece put on like a glow-in-the-dark sauropod sticker. I'm sorry for you guys, it's upside down, but it's still on there like days later, so it's gonna be in today's video. It's gonna join us. Next, let's move on to my RMS blushes. These are 3 of the new shades. Rosemary just launched a 4th new shade, which I feel like I want to end up getting at some point because I just love this formula. Honestly, even though these look super vibrant, I feel like it's a more buildable formula if you wanted it to be. If you go in with a super fluffy brush. So this is Coeur Royale, this is Crystal Slipper, and that's Bohemian Girl. Coeur Royale is my favorite, which I have said before, but this shade here in Bohemian Girl is probably the most unique in my collection, or of these 3, because it is like this goldy peach shade, which is like really nice. This is a nice like neutral shade too. I mean, I think it's neutral. It has a little bit of warmth to it, but it's still neutral. But this one's almost like a champagne-y peach. So I love this formula. These are also removable too in here. I highly recommend these. I feel like the blushes from RMS Beauty are great for every different skin type. And Rosemary's actually done a really good job with the shade ranges in this line, so it works for a variety of different skin tones as well. I have one of the Sigma cream blushes. This is in Corderosa. I thought this was going to be a more mauve shade, but I think Corderosa is like a more warm toned. It's more like almost terracotta now that I've played with it. This is like a balm. It's more balmy than it is like matte, if that makes sense. So it's a little bit more emollient, a little bit of a thinner formula. I personally love it because see my swatch, it's still really opaque and pigmented on the cheeks. I don't find it fades off very easily either. It's just a super easy, convenient formula to work with like just a little bit of sheen on the cheeks. So I highly enjoy this product. I have one here from Half Magic. I like this. The only thing is I think you burn through it really quickly, which is one thing I have said. I can see the imprint in the pan already, and I've just gone through the testing phases of this. It's more of a drier formula. It's almost like putty dry. But yeah, see how hard I've dug into the center of it to like expose the pan, like the shape of the pan. These are called a Cheek Fluff Soft Blur Blush, and this one is in Don't Be a Doll. Here it is here. So more of a matte finish. I like it. Again, I just feel like it's kind of hard because it's a drier formula to pick up on a fluffy brush. So I feel like I'm digging in it a little bit with like a stippling brush or like a beauty blender, just basically a sponge, and I'm really digging into the product. So we'll see how long it lasts me. It's fine if it doesn't last that long. It's just, I feel like I'm burning through it pretty quickly, quicker than I burn through other products. I have one here from JCat. This is the Blush Mallow Soft Blusher. This one is in the shade Sweet and Chic. They have different shades, but they're all super vibrant. I have not found one in their line that's like neutral or mauve. Everything online looks a lot less intense than it actually looks in person. So I think there's 4 or 5 shades in this line, but they're all like really, really vibrant. This one's like a hot pink. And yeah, again, 4 or 5 different shades. I didn't even think that I bought a cream blush when it came because it really does look like a powdered formula. It's nice, drier formula, pretty long lasting, pretty matte finish. Just a super vibrant shade when it gets to the cheek. So that's why I personally don't love this line. Formula is really good. It's just that I wish there was maybe a toned down blush. Again, if you look at the pictures online, they look like some of them would be more mild, but yeah, all the ones that I've seen in person are more on the vibrant side like this. This is genuinely a wet wipe marathon. This is my probably most pigmented blush. This is the Makeup Forever Artist blush. This one is in Spirited Sienna. It came broken and I repressed it, which made the formula, I'm pretty sure, like a little bit softer, but this formula didn't need it. It was already as soft could be. It's so pigmented. The shade, I have the shimmer finish. They come in matte finishes as well. And I think there's only 3 shades in the shimmer finish if I'm remembering correctly, and there's more shades in the matte. Guess I liked the shimmery finish, the way that it looked more, so that's why I picked it up. But look at that. Like, it's delightful. It's gorgeous. It's like, again, that orange one in Bohemian Girl. This is a deeper, like, terracotta burnt orange color, but like just that shimmer in it. I don't know, it's so beautiful. It's such a long-lasting staining formula. Even though this is on the higher price point, it's still a pretty unique blush in my collection, I think. I don't, however, feel that way about the Artist Sculpt in the bronzer from this line. I just felt like it was okay. The next 2 that I have come from the Alma Viva collection. These were their mono blushes. So I have one in the shade Hot Shot and one in the shade Angel Wing. Honestly, the one in Hot Shot is more like a bronzer. I was using this as a bronzer. I was not using this as a blush. The one in Angel Wing is like a lighter peachy pink shade. I think this one is probably a little bit too light for me. The formula is incredibly soft though, like super soft. But this is like the lightest pink blush I have ever used. If I'm using this as a bronzer, it's actually like a really nice neutral shade. So I'm gonna end up putting this in my bronzer collection. But if this is like something that you like, I feel like they don't make a ton of like brown tones like this, but I do find that people tend to like this as blush for like kind of a more natural look. I don't think these are a remarkable formula. They're just a little bit too light for me. This one doesn't show up all that great even on my super fair skin tone, so I don't know necessarily who this would work for. I think I like more pigment than this, and I just find it kind of like a powdery formula. But see how like when you kind of rub it in, it's not a lot of pigmentation, so I don't think it's a great formula. I think that these just don't kind of stand out to me in my collection. These 2 are in my project pan currently. This is the Satin Matte Higher Standards Satin Matte Cream Blush from LYS. This one is in the shade Self Love. So this one, I don't think I'm gonna be able to pan it, but it's a little bit older in my collection, so I've been trying to. I love it though. It's just that it's starting to dry out a little bit. It's so beautiful, plus the shade is just gorgeous in a like mauve-y color. It goes a long way, so I don't know how well I'm gonna be able to pan this given all my other blushes that I'm currently testing, but I'm definitely trying. And the other one that I'm trying to pan is from Honest Beauty. It's also a little bit on the older side, and you can kind of see here like it's dried out a little bit, so I've been trying to use it up. This one is in the shade Rose Pink. It's the cream cheek and lip color. I have another one too, but see like the imprint, kind of like where it's dried out. Super beautiful shades. This one has a bit of a sheen to it from Honest Beauty. Again, don't know how well I'm gonna end up panning it, but I'm trying. This next one is an indie brand, Doll Beauty. It's the Pretty Fly Cream Blush. This is a nice shade. Again, it's that peachy shade that has a lot of gold, kind of champagne-y sparkles. It's almost like a putty formula. It's not super thin like a balm. It has a little bit of texture to it. And I would say it has a little bit of radiance. It's lighter though, it's not like overly pigmented. It's really pretty, but aside from the shade, I don't find it like an overly unique formula that I think about. These next ones are from ColourPop. They're their cream blushes. I haven't decided whether I'm keeping these or if I'm going to end up decluttering them. I got 5 of the 8 shades. See this one? How it's like changed colors? It's really weird. They kind of have a smell to them. The packaging is just really cheap. This looks like it's full on sweating. Ugh, I don't know. I did not find these good. They're supposed to be a matte formula. They say natural matte finish on the bottom. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about them, you guys. These are not recommendations from me. They're just better blushes on the market in my personal opinion, that I feel like you could skip these blushes. I mean, the packaging itself too, just really cheap. One of these pops fully out on me. I can't remember which one it is, but yeah. And the fact that this is like changed color, don't know what that's about. The smell smells like makeup-y, really weird. But I will swatch these out for you guys. I don't know if I've tested all of the shades yet the way that I like to test them. So far, this one in Coyote has been the only one that I put away in my drawer because I've tested the formula. It's just that I haven't tested all the shades. So this one in Coyote is probably my favorite. See how it's like a thinner like texture, and I just don't think it's like fully matte. It's kind of like oily on the skin. So I don't get the whole natural matte finish thing. Then I'll swatch this one. It might be this one that pops out. I don't know. One of them, oh yeah, also the mirror came busted. This one here is in Whole Mood. They're just slippery. I just don't understand why, if people like these, why they like them. This one is in Bali Baby. I also really like this because it's a pretty mauve shade. But see how much, like, they're kind of sheer? Maybe that's why people like them, is because they're more buildable. But yeah, they're basically like this super slippery, like oily consistency. I just don't like them. And honestly, I feel like they kind of dry out fast. This one is in Poppy. And I do like this one. Oh, here's the one that the glue is like right there and right there. Just poor quality. Cheap quality. Sunset Strip. I also like this one because I feel like it's a unique color in my collection. I don't really have a ton of reds. So I might hold on to Coyote and Sunset Strip and declutter the other ones. They're just honestly just not that great of a formula. Kind of greasy looking, kind of greasy feeling too. I was just thinking that last time I did my blush declutter, I also lost my voice. So I feel like that's my thing. So all of these next ones are in the testing phases. Like everything I'm about to show you, I have not fully tested. They have not gone into a speed review. I have used all of them but 3 on my cheeks. So there's like this whole basket here is all ones that I am still testing, believe it or not. I have 2 of the M Cosmetics Pillow Blushes. They only came out in 2 shades, so I picked both of them up. So far, I really like them. Again, kind of like a putty formula and not a huge amount of product for what they cost. So, I mean, that is what it is. But yeah, it's like basically like a putty formula. It's nice, don't get me wrong. And I think it's super pigmented and easy formula to work with. And I love both of these shades. That one was Peanut. This one that I'm swatching for you here is in the shade Tickled. I like them because of the way they look on the cheeks. This one from Give Beauty is Feelin' Cheeky Amplified Blush Duo in Lasting Love. I don't know why, but when I bought this, I thought she was coming out with a duo like she did with her bronzer and contour, where one was a cream and one was a powder, but these are both powder. And they're slightly different shades. If you can see, this one is more pink and this one is more peach, and one is like a shimmer finish and one is fully matte. I like it though. I mean, it's pigmented and they perform really well on the cheeks and they're pretty long lasting. I enjoy this shimmery nonsense like a ton. So I don't know, I think it's pretty good. I wish though she'd rethink bringing these pans all the way over. Otherwise it's great. I have one here from Mob Beauty. Just tried this one time, so not super familiar with the formula, but so far I'm loving Mob Beauty. This one is in M72, that's the shade. It's just kind of a mauve-y shade. It's thicker than a balm and it's like a satin matte. It's really pretty, just straightforward standard cream blush. This is also removable, so enjoyed that one the one time that I tried it. I've also only tested this once. This is from Merit Beauty. What do they call these? They call this the Flush Balm Cheek Color, and this one is in Beverly Hills. It's a mauve shade basically. This is obviously more of a balm, so it's more of a like a flush of color than it is overly pigmented. I've only tried it once, so I mean, I don't know how I feel about it, but it seems pretty straightforward. It's just a more sheer formula that's balm-like. That's basically what you get out of this. So if that's your thing, it's nice. And Merit is more minimalist beauty anyway, so that's what you can kind of expect from a lot of their products. I have 2 liquid blushes. They're called the Sun Flushed Liquid Blushers from BH Cosmetics. This one is in the shade. The shades were on the stickers on these, so they're no longer on the packaging anymore, but I don't know, more mauve and more orange. Like, I've used these once, I think. These are still in the testing phases. That's really, really emollient, super highly pigmented, opaque. That feels so soft. Yeah, I've just used these once, so I can't really remember how I feel about them. Look how far one little dot travels though. Geez, that's all you need. Okay, maybe that one came out a little bit more sheer. Let me build this up a little bit. still, you don't need a lot of product. It's still really nice. But yeah, look at them. They're like super emollient. Of course, you have to like this kind of applicator. I don't mind, because with a doe foot applicator, I take it and I put it on the back of my hand anyway. So what's the difference? Like, the applicator doesn't, for me, add any special convenience. So having something like this isn't less convenient, if that makes sense. Let me show you this one from Beauty Bay, which I mentioned. This is their liquid blush in Peaches. Let me show you just how dry this formula is. So much drier than the Made by Mitchell. You can see it. It's like a thick paste, basically. Definitely on the more dry side, but it still has good emollients. It's just very, very putty-like. People who like a more matte finish blush may really enjoy this. Then I have two here from Phytosurgence. These are called their Skin Spark blushes. I have this one in the shade Fume and this one in the shade Condensate. This is more pinky and Condensate is like more mauve. These I really enjoy from Phytosurgence. They're so pigmented, and they're like this balmy but like super emollient formula. Very, very comfortable. I almost feel like I have a hard time like picking it up with a brush with this, because I just get so much pigmentation. I feel like with these, you even may want to use like a little bit of a, like the end of a sponge, and then like tap it off on your hand before you go into your cheeks to apply these, because they're just so emollient that the pigment really does travel. They're my favorite product that I've tried from Phytosurgence so far. And I have 3 of the cream blushes from Fenty. I've tested these once, and so far, like, they're not exactly what I expected them to be. These are more of a buildable formula, and I know these have been out for a long time. I never tried them. So now that I'm like more into cream and liquid blushes, I wanted to give them a shot. So this one is in Fuego Flush, more orangey shade with shimmer. See how they're kind of like more on the sheer side? They're not as like pigmented as I thought they were going to be, given the fact that they're pretty like vibrant shades. This one here, I want to say is in Strawberry Drip. Yes, Strawberry Drip. So they kind of sheer out a little bit. They're not as intense as they look like in the pan. This one's like more mauve-y shade. Yeah, just a more buildable formula. Only have tried these once, so aside from knowing they're a more buildable formula, they look beautiful on the skin. I don't know how they perform or how long they last. This one I've actually tested a little bit longer. This is the Nudies Matte Glow Core in Rose Glow. I have worn this a couple of times. This was kind of in my everyday makeup drawer, my testing. One thing I don't like about this is so how inset it is in here. So I feel like you're not getting as much product as you could be. Like, why not make it go to the top? I don't know what the reasoning is for that. But this formula is way more emollient and dewy of a finish than just the core. The core is like kind of gimmicky. It doesn't necessarily serve a purpose. The whole product itself is way more emollient and dewy and like gives a good sheen. I don't even think I get that much that comes from that core. I really enjoy it. I don't know why they needed to call it Nudies Matte. This one is in the shade Rose Glow. I think they just did because they wanted to extend their line, but that's really the only reason. Then I have 2 from Cali Ray. They're fairly new releases. This one is in Wildflower. I don't even remember how I feel about this formula. Oh, it's a ton more liquidy than I remember it being. So I don't really have thoughts on these quite yet because I haven't tested them enough. And then this one is in Heat Wave. But there's like nothing from Cali Ray that I don't like, so just a more sheer formula. I had to sniff them. They don't really have a smell to them, but different, really, really different, more sheer formula than like some of my other liquid blushes with doe foot applicators. This one here is from Wander Beauty. It's a duo, so cream blush and then a cream balm at the bottom. It's like a highlighter basically. It's the Double Date Lip and Cheek. It's the top one is in Honeymoon and the bottom one is in Swipe. So far I've tested this, I want to say 1 time, and I think I like the formula. Oh yeah, it's nice and pigmented, pretty straightforward cream formula. It looks like it has a little bit of radiance, and this balm doesn't have any pigment. It's just a highlight. So kind of cool, kind of nice. There are like other products like this on the market that do similar things to this balm. So if you like that kind of effect, it's actually very nice. And not enough people, in my personal opinion, talk about the Wander Beauty formula. I also have one of their stick blushes that you guys will see later that I also love, that I think rivals some of the really popular ones. I just think people sleep on Wander Beauty, even their eyeshadow formula. I just think most of their stuff is super straightforward, not gimmicky, performs extremely well, and just not enough people talk about it. Whoa, the ones from Cali Ray are really staining, really staining formula. Oh, I'm not sure I'm gonna get them all off. They're not exactly going away. Then the last three that I have not tried yet. I think I've swatched these two. This formula I'm aware of, but this obviously went on sale on Marshall's, so I picked it up. It's the Divine Blush from Pat McGrath. I have another one in my collection. I don't know that I'm like a huge fan of the formula, so I think I probably just got this because I really liked the way this shade looked. This one is in the shade Nude Venus 2, so I think that's why I picked it up. Yeah, I really enjoyed this shade. I feel like this one maybe came from like, I don't know, a collection or something, and that's why the packaging is a little bit different than the one I had. The shade just looked delightful. I think this one has like a little bit more sheen to it than the one that I have that is fully matte. So that's kind of why I wanted to pick this up. I don't think it'll necessarily be a different formula, but I mean, it could be. It's just the finish looks so nice. I also have tested this formula as well. I've had this in my collection a long time, but I just picked up a different shade in Happy Hour. I want to say I have Magic Hour? I don't know, we'll see it later. But this one is like a super punchy shade. I took a risk. I feel like I've been trying way more pinky vibrant blushes lately. And like even the one in Coyote that I was showing you guys earlier, and this one, like more red from ColourPop in Sunset Strip, they're just very different for me, and so I've been trying to branch out. Maybe not this pink, but I've still been trying to branch out. So this is the Beach Please in Happy Hour. Oh my gosh, I just love this formula. It's like balmy but really pigmented. The Tower 28 blush though, I have to say, is one of my stickier blushes. I'm sure you guys, if you love blush, have probably tried this formula before, but yeah, it's on the stickier side. It's probably my most sticky one. This is pretty vibrant, so I don't know, I may hold on to this until we get through winter. Not sure, maybe I'll just wear it through winter, don't know, but have tried that formula before, highly recommend it. Then this one from Rose Inc is the Blush Divine Radiant Lip and Cheek color in Camellia or Camellia, probably. Have swatched this, have not tested this. I enjoy the bronzer, but it's a little bit too warm for me, so I don't get a ton of use out of it. This is removable. This looks like a really thick formula that didn't necessarily look cream before I swatched it. Oh, it feels so good. I actually do really like a lot of Rose Inc products. I haven't put this on my cheeks yet. It's really emollient, as you guys can see, but it's thick. It's a thicker formula. It feels really good. I am excited. I might do a full face of Rose Inc. Again, I like the bronzer formula. I think I'm gonna end up liking this one. Welcome back. It's a different day, different hands. I did paint my nails. This is the first time I've painted my nails in I wanna say like 20 years, so I don't recommend. I just don't. I did such an awful job, so if you guys just see it all over my hands or some of them already smudged, because I'm the most impatient person when it comes to letting my nails dry in the world. That's why. Here are all my drugstore blushes. These include powder blushes and they include cream and liquid. So I thought we would start with this basket next. I'm gonna move it over just a little bit and then start swatching them with you guys. I have two of the Milani baked powder blushes. I have loved these for years. I have clearly rubbed this one off because this is a blush that I used to use exclusively, because I've had this blush for, I want to say 3 years at this point, and this was the only blush that I used. I didn't have a big collection. In fact, I think I only had 1 or 2 blushes at the time. So this one is in Luminoso. It's a rock solid formula, just super beautiful. I don't grab for it that much anymore because, as you can see, like, I've grown my collection so much and I'm testing so many so often. I just don't find myself reaching for it, but I will not let it go. Like, it has sentimental value, plus I just don't think powder goes bad quickly. This one is in Dolce Pink. I don't like this one as much, but I'm getting more into pinks now. They just have this really awesome sheen to them. Oh, they're just so beautiful. No matter how many companies come out with similar formulas, I feel like this is kind of like the OG shimmery baked powder formula. And then I have two of the Essence Pure Nude baked blushes that came out in January of this year. They don't look that different. I think when you're looking up close, you guys might see a bit of a bigger contrast being a little bit further back, but this one is in Shimmering Rose. I would say that the sheen to these is also very similar to the Milani. These ones are softer than the Milani. Even though the Milani is awesome, I feel like the sheen is just more prominent. I also kind of feel like for the most part, when you pick these up on a brush, they're more buildable than the Milani ones. And then this one is in Pretty Peach. Yeah, they look more striking than the Milani ones do, but honestly, when you pick them up with a fluffier brush, I feel like these have much more pigmentation in actual translation than these ones do, but they're very, very similar overall. So both baked products, both shimmery. I don't think I was a huge fan of the Essence ones originally because I liked something more pigmented, and I think now I'm enjoying them more than I did when they first launched. Along the same vein is the Cheek Lover Oil Infused Blush from Catrice. You guys, this is amazing. The shade is also super unique in my collection. This is Blooming Hibiscus. It's an orangey shimmer shade, but you can see so much more of the shimmers like in the pan. And when it translates, it's just like this hot peach shade. It's just really pretty. But honestly, they're almost the same exact formulas. They're all baked formulas. They all have sheen to them. I want to say the Milani has like sparkles in it, and that's kind of what makes it different from the Pure Nude from Essence and then this one from Catrice, is that the shimmer particles in these two formulas is just more finely milled than the ones from Milani, but all very similar. You honestly couldn't go wrong. I feel like once this translates though, this one is the most pigmented of all three. I just really like this shade, like just a little bit more. It's just a little bit more vibrant and like hot pink. I don't know, for whatever reason, it translates beautifully onto the skin. I have another one that is from a dupes brand. This is a European brand called W7. It's their candy blush. I say dupes brand because W7 primarily dupes other brands. I don't think this particular one is duping anything. I did pick this up at CVS. This is the candy blush in the shade Gossip. It's really pigmented. It's soft. I wouldn't say it's my favorite thing from W7, but it's pretty darn good. It's just smooth and pretty straightforward, like cloud-like airbrushing matte finish, and inexpensive. So I enjoy this one. And I have one of the blush lighters from Essence, which I don't know if they make anymore. This one is in Cassis Sunburst. I have thought about decluttering this so many times, but honestly, I can't. Every time I swatch it, I see just how honestly beautiful this is. It's so much more shimmery than all the other ones I was showing you from Essence, Milani, and Catrice. And it's in this really beautiful, I want to say it's kind of a peachy pink shade. So I've held on to it, and now I'm just into a much more shimmery blush. So I won't let that one go. I think I'm resolved in keeping it in my collection permanently. And then I think this is my final powder blush in the drugstore category. This is the L'Oreal Infallible 24-Hour Fresh Wear Blush in Fearless Coral. I don't know if I think this is a coral shade. I think it's a little bit more vibrant. I think this is almost a coral shade, and I think of this as like, I don't know, closer to fuchsia. But all of these blushes are super pigmented, and it's hard to tell how they're gonna come out because I just went to the drugstore the other day and I was looking at these, and every one of these looks like a super deep shade. So I don't think any one of these is like diffused out or necessarily matches what their shade name is. This is just such a pigmented formula. I just watched it again to see how far it would travel. And if you like a more buildable formula, you would not like this because it packs a really big punch. Soft matte blush, yeah. So definitely silky matte formula. I think I'll go over all my creams next, and then we can do liquids. I don't think I have that many liquids. I have this one from Profusion. I did get this in CVS. This is a Social Butterfly Soft Cloud Blush in Painted Lady. It's like a putty formula. It almost looks powder, but it isn't. It is like a cream putty formula. It's actually really nice. Like once you mix these designs together, the more coral shade and then the more like orangey shade. I thoroughly enjoy the formula. It dries down and it really stays like a really long time throughout the day. I don't know if they still like carry this in CVS, but I'm nearly certain this is still available on their website. Another one from Profusion is, I forget what these are called. I think it was from like a collection, but this one is in the shade Bestie. This one is almost like a stiffer balm, if that makes sense. Like it can be warmed up and pretty creamy, but it's not as sheer as a balm. It's really pigmented, but it's such a stiff formula. It has grip to it. So I don't know what you would call this. I just really enjoy it because it's such a long-lasting formula. And as far as like orange blushes go, I'm such a big fan. So I usually hold on to my orange blushes, but I don't know if you can kind of see like it has some tack to it, but I like the cheek products that I've got from Profusion. I can't say that about their eyeshadows very much anymore. I've been disappointed in some of the formulas that I've tested lately, but I enjoy those, so I hold on to them. I have one here from ColourPop. This I ended up keeping. This went into my like chopping block. This is the Super Shock Cheek in the pearlized finish in the shade No Way. And then I also had the matte, and I ended up decluttering the matte one, surprisingly. The reason this went into the chopping block originally was because it was so pearlized back when I was so into a matte finish blush. And this emphasized so much texture on my cheeks. But when I put it in my chopping block and I tested it again, I was like, this is so creamy and shimmery and beautiful that I ended up holding on to it. So I have fallen back in love with this pearlized finish. I would not repurchase the matte though. Like I would skip the matte. I feel like the matte is on the drier side and the matte one ended up drying out on me, even though this was an older product than the matte one was. So highly recommend the pearlized finish. I just pulled out the rest of my compact style ones. I have one from Moira. I have had two from Moira in the past, but one was a brighter pink than I was really enjoying at the time. This is the Love Heat Cream Blush. This one is in the shade Respect You. This is a easy dupe for the Tower 28, plus it's in similar packaging. I even find this to be a little bit more pigmented than that. The other shade that I have, nothing wrong with the formula, it was just too pink, like bright pink of a shade for me, so I ended up decluttering it. But this one I enjoyed more. Now that I'm into more pinky blushes, I feel like maybe I would have liked to hold on to that one, but this is such a beautiful, like interesting shade. These are pretty inexpensive. I want to say they're between $7 and $8. A really affordable cream blush, like even more so than like all the rest of these. This is the least expensive and maybe my favorite. So I highly recommend pretty much everything from Moira Beauty. I have one here from Oma by Sharon C. This is the more affordable line that's sold in CVS and Walmart. This is the Flawless IRL blush in the shade Audacity. I have the bronzer too. Ooh, you guys, these are such good quality. They're a cream to powder formula. Don't even look like cream in the pan. They're pigmented, they're easy to work with. This one has a bit of a sheen to it. It's like a terracotta shade. This is such an easy, beautiful, creamy cream to powder formula. It's delightful. It's actually made in Italy. Highly recommend that. It is $10 at CVS and Walmart. And I have another one of the Honest Beauty lip and cheek colors. This one is in a more orangey shade and it's newer. As you can see, the other one was like definitely like kind of drying out. Actually, this one feels like a little bit dry as well. Wow, this one has significantly dried out. I think these Honest Beauty ones dry out really fast. Look at this, I can't even, this is a newer product than the one that I was showing you in pink. I'm barely even getting a swatch with this. I think it's probably just time to let this Honest Beauty one go, even though I didn't even get this that long ago. Yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna pick up with this. I wouldn't be sad. It's a nice formula, and once upon a time before my collection was much bigger, I feel like this was such a good formula, but now I have so many comparable ones that this isn't revolutionary anymore the way that I felt, you know, when my collection was smaller, when I first tested this formula out. It dries down, but it's a thicker, kind of tackier formula. I think they tend to dry out a little bit quicker, and Honest Beauty is like clean beauty too, so these don't last quite as long. One from Milani, one of the Cheek Kiss cream blushes. This one is in Nude Kiss. Pretty standard cream formula. It's more emollient, a little bit of a sheen, kind of a radiant finish. It doesn't dry down to a matte. It's so pigmented when you're actually applying it, even more so than it looks like kind of, I don't know, more of a sheer buildable formula when I'm swatching it. It's so pigmented on the cheeks. It's just a really good, affordable drugstore blush. But if I'm being honest, I prefer this formula more from Oma by Sharon C. It's just richer. And I even enjoy the one from Moira more so than the one from Milani. That is how they all last. They are all very long-lasting cream formulas. I have one here from Half Caked. This is the Candy Paint Cream Blush in the shade Angel. This formula reminds me of maybe the Honest Beauty one, like harder. This one's a lot newer than the one from Honest Beauty. This one has maybe a little bit more radiance too than the one from Honest Beauty that dries down a little bit. I mean, it still has a sheen to it, but this one is a sticky formula. Very, very sticky, very tacky formula. Honestly, if I was going to declutter any, it would probably be this one, because if I'm gonna reach for like a radiant blush like this, I would grab this one, or I would grab this one, because these have sheen to them without being sticky. This is just a really, really sticky formula. So like, this is the kind of formula that like, if you didn't find a way to kind of mattify this, your hair would get stuck in it. So it's not my favorite formula. It's decent, but I find it's a little bit more tricky to work with. The last one that's kind of compact-ish, like, well, maybe these two, I guess. The one from Believe Beauty, I've had this for so long. This is the Color Me Cream Blush in Doll Face. This is such a pigmented $5 blush. I honestly love this shade too. It's like this light pink with purple hues to it. It has a little bit of radiance, but very emollient and very pigmented. Favorite Believe Beauty product that I have ever tried. But honestly, I don't know that I've tried a Believe Beauty product that I haven't liked. I have even recently tested their eyeshadow formula, and superb. Way better than I thought it was gonna be. This one here is from Winky Lux. This is one of their Cheeky Rose blushes in the shade Tea Time. I've also had this one for a long time. This one's getting on the older side. It's a little rose. Honestly, this is a really long-lasting formula. It's drying out though. It's so sad. I have actually really enjoyed this more than it being gimmicky, but it's definitely getting on the dry side. It's basically just like a matte finish blush, and I never had any issues picking it up on like a pretty dense brush and tapping it onto the cheeks. I thought it was very beautiful and honestly nice to look at. But yeah, it's definitely getting on the dry side. I better take some of these ones that are getting on the dry side and put them into a project pan pretty soon, because otherwise they are just gonna go bad. Okay, let's move on into the two that I have that are potted. This one is from SheGlam. I don't think I have much SheGlam products anymore. I did do a full face, and I feel like that's when I picked this up. That was a while ago. But the expiration date is 6/16 of 25, so this is still good. This is the Cheeky Color Jam in Afternoon Peach. It's putty. And honestly, it reminds me so much of the Cara Beauty ones that I was showing you guys, except it's maybe not as creamy as the Cara Beauty ones. See, it's a little bit of like a drier formula, but it was so long lasting and staining that I kept it. Yeah, this one like is a whipped dry down formula. This one is the Fluffy Blush from Pacifica in the shade Sunset. I actually really enjoy this. It's different than that one, but it's also a putty. This one is much more creamy. I just like the way that these dry down. I think that's what it is. They're so simple and easy to use that they make it really an enjoyable formula, because you can just tap your brush in and then they basically stain your cheeks. But they're so easy to, you know, to rub into the cheeks. They diffuse out so nicely that they're just quite fun products to grab for. This next set here is all of my sticks. I think of all of these, my favorite formula is from AF94. This is the About Face drugstore brand. This one is the Playdate Multi-Use Cheek and Lip Color in the shade If You Dare. This is actually the color of the blush. And when I got it, I thought it was gonna be like way too purple, but it actually diffuses out into this like cold girl look. Like it's so beautiful. And I don't know if you guys can see it, but it has like fine gold like pearls in it. And so it translates so beautifully onto the skin. If you diffuse this out, I don't know why, but on fair skin, it just looks bitten and gorgeous with that sheen to it. A lot less intimidating when it gets to the cheeks. And it's my favorite formula. So easy to work with. And you see how it like really holds its opacity? So fantastic, lovely. Highly recommend this, honestly. And then I think my next favorite is probably the Mega Glow makeup stick from Wet n Wild. This one is in the shade Floral Majority. I'm pretty sure they expanded the shade range in this. It was pretty low last time. Like it didn't have very much for a pretty long time. This formula is just super easy to work with. Like it performs like some of my high-end stick blushes and is opaque and pigmented and creamy, but dries down and super easy to apply. It's such a beautiful formula. It looks like airbrushing on the skin, so I highly recommend those. That's a pretty affordable, inexpensive blush too. Then it probably is the LA Girl Velvet Blush Stick. This has more shades than the one from Wet n Wild. I just don't love the formula as much. I find it's a little bit less creamy than the one from Wet n Wild. Like if you can kind of see, I don't know. It's very similar. It's just drier, not as creamy. This one is in the shade Velour. I like it. Again, really affordable options. Still perform like some of my high-end stick blushes. So I do recommend both of these. It's just that I prefer the Wet n Wild over the LA Girl one. Then as it goes, I really enjoy the Pixie On The Glow blush. And I know this is an acquired taste. It's also, you know, like deodorant style packaging. The luminosity on this and like the juiciness of this makes it the acquired taste, because you may not love like how juicy this is, how more sheer of a formula it is. I know I just did a giant swatch for you guys, but I wanted you to really see just how juicy. It has decent pigmentation, but it's more sheer, more sheen, more juicy. It's a little bit of a stickier formula that doesn't completely dry down. But if you're looking for that, like if you genuinely want to make your cheeks look juicy, I think it's a good product. It may not be everybody's preference. I hear polarizing things about this. I happen to really enjoy it for what it is. And I think it's even easy, like with this applicator, to draw straight onto my cheeks. That's how I apply it, and I blend the edges. I'm not a blush expert or anything, but I feel like it looks just fine on me. This is in the shade Juicy, by the way. And then it goes the Essence Baby Got Blush. This is not my favorite product. I see this getting pretty good reviews. This one is in Peaches and Cream. I don't like it because it doesn't blend easily. It fades super unevenly on my cheeks. That's what it is. Once I rub this in, let me do it right here on my wrist, it'll start fading in really uneven patterns. And nobody else seems to say that about this blush. And it smells so strongly of maybe peaches. It might not even be peaches because the bronzer smells the same way. And this just happens to be in the shade Peaches and Cream. And I don't think like it's supposed to smell like the shade name. It almost smells like straight watermelon. Now that I'm smelling it, yeah, it smells like watermelon. I mean, I can smell it the minute I take the cap off. It's so strong. I love the way this looks initially. I just don't like the way it wears. The last are my liquid blushes. I know my favorites are the blush balms from Flower Beauty. Heard a lot of hot and cold from these too. This one is in the shade Melon. I don't care. I love these. Love them. They're really super pigmented, nice and opaque. A little bit of product goes a really long way. They're really juicy on the cheeks. I find them super easy to work with. This one is in the shade Spiced. I'm gonna add maybe just a little bit more on this one. So a little bit of luminosity, good opacity. I don't know, I like them. I really enjoy these. I find them very easy to work with and a pretty long lasting formula. I almost picked up another shade like the other day. I don't need it in my life, but I almost did. That's how much I like the formula. Then this one is the liquid blush from Revolution. This is in Peach Filter. I like this too, surprisingly. I don't love a whole ton of Revolution products, but this one is actually really nice, like and pigmented and juicy. It has a bit of a sheen to it. I think it actually performs pretty well. It's a pretty decently long lasting blush. It doesn't fade off right away. It's not as pigmented as a lot of the other ones, but it has a time and a place to just be more sheer, a little bit more bouncy looking on the cheeks, if that makes sense. Then my most inexpensive one probably is from the Relove line from Makeup Revolution. This is the Baby Tint in Blush. Ooh, it kind of looks like it's drying out, or I've just used a lot of it. I don't know, one of the two. I think it's a pretty similar formula to the one from Revolution, their liquid blush. I mean, it's obviously the same brand, but they're both like this juicy, more buildable formula. I feel like this color is a bit more staining on the cheeks, but they both kind of like sheer out. They don't stay super pigmented. They're like just more sheer. I enjoy the one from Revolution more than the one from Relove. This is not like a formula to write home about. You know, it doesn't like super stand out in my collection, but I've held onto it because it was so inexpensive. And I did enjoy this from the line. That was everything that I had for the drugstore blushes. I want to move on into probably the face palettes next, just because I have them next to me. Okay, so these aren't all face palettes. Actually, some of them are duos. So this is basically everything where a blush exists in more than one way. Like, for example, this one is a duo from Patrick Ta. The one size is a trio. These all sit in my like face palette drawers. So they have a blush in here of some sort. I'm going to take the reflective ones first. This one is the Becca, Chloe, and Malika. It is so old in my collection. It is like one of the last products that I bought from Becca before they actually totally went out of business. So it comes with a bronzer, a highlighter, and 2 blushes. Don't be mad at me, but I'm only going to swatch the blushes since this is a blush video. This is one of the softest baked formulas with like delightful shimmer. It is so good. I honestly don't get enough use out of this. I'd like to put this in a project pan. I have those 2 other blushes that I showed you guys in my project pan right now, but as far as powder blushes go, I would like to take this out and like use all of these products up because every one of these works well for me. This is perfect for my skin tone. This highlighter, oh, I might as well just swatch them because I'm over here talking about it. This highlighter is absolutely to die for. The formula is just quite amazing. So that is the whole thing, like swatched out. It's so good. I think it came in like 2 different depths. So I don't know, that's just so good. I'm sorry you know, can't get that anymore. It's such a beautiful baked Italian formula. Then I'll take this one because it's also reflective. This is the Double Take Cream and Powder Blush in Do We Know Her from Patrick Ta. I would honestly like to get a shade that's not so like orange now that I'm like getting more into pinky. So powder and cream. I like it. I know these went like pretty darn viral. I would not say these are either of like my favorite formulas, if I'm being honest. I think they're good. I think the powder is super soft, and I think the cream is more like, it is not fully dried down to a matte finish. It's got a little bit of tack to it, but it's nice. I just know that I prefer the one from One Size more, and I happen to like all of these. Like the shimmer finish, the matte, and then the cream. They're just super pigmented, and that's really kind of my speed. And that's why I prefer these, like this formula or this like palette a little bit more. Powder, powder shimmer, I should say powder matte, and then powder shimmer. And then this one is the cream. The cream is like putty almost. It's kind of on the drier side. And I just kind of prefer that, I guess, when I'm dealing with creams. I guess it's just an easier thing for me to work with on an everyday basis, and that's why I gravitate towards it. But I love all 3 of these. I love all 3 of the formulas, so I'm a huge fan of this. In fact, I have not yet found a One Size product I don't like, so I'm tempted to try the whole line. I didn't think I was going to be like that, but as I keep testing more and more stuff, for whatever reason, it's my preference. Maybe because Patrick has like an oilier complexion, and so do I. And so maybe that's why I end up liking a lot of the products. So I think I'm gonna test some more stuff out, even though it's kind of polarizing. That's how all beauty is, really. This one is in the shade Verity That. This is my only Hourglass palette. This is the Ambient Lighting Edit in Universe. I could never bring myself to buy another one of these palettes. I feel like once you have one, you have them all. But people go crazy for them. Like every single year, I just don't find there to be a huge difference. And I honestly don't like this as like a setting powder. So it's like $90 gets me that. I don't know why there's so much hype around it. It's nice. It's just, haven't I swatched a ton of nice? And yeah, this is like not a setting powder I would use. Here are the blushes. It's pretty, like don't get me wrong. I have a single blush of theirs. And because I have this formula in one palette, I feel like one palette is really all I need. Not that it's not a beautiful baked shimmery formula that's smooth and airbrush looking, but one is good. Also, these come out constantly. This one is from NARS. It's the Rising Star Cheek palette, and it just came out in one. So this has blush ranges for basically, I want to say every different skin tone. You can go light, you can do shimmery and super deep, and I happen to love this baked formula, and I happen to love all of these shades, even the deeper one, because I just feel like, I don't know, it's like super unique. The formula is super creamy and soft and easy to work with. Wow, those two seemed pretty similar when I swatched them. It's kind of like an uncomplicated formula, and maybe that's why I really enjoy it. It's just simple and easy. I don't think I got the best swatch out of this peach one, sorry. Super light skin tones, like deeper skin tones. Actually, I think I did them backwards, but I just like the range on this. Plus you get one shimmery, but again, because they come out with these all the time, I feel like one is plenty. And I honestly don't have a hard time getting my brush into each one of these pans. I think it's a really good formula. The thing is with NARS though, they make those limited editions. So they come out with like basically a new color story every season, like every new month. I'm being facetious, but it's pretty close. Charlotte also does that. So this is the most recent one. It's the Pillow Talk Beautifying Face Palette. I want to say this one is in, yeah, Pillow Talk Fair to Medium. And this comes with highlighters as well as blushes. But I love these. When this came out, people were like, it's so hard pressed in the pan. I can't get it up on a fluffy brush, but I never found an issue. I think both of these picked up on a fluffy brush just fine for me. And they're super creamy and beautiful. So I'm swatching kind of on a little bit of a wet wrist at this point. They're just pretty and beautiful, and they were pigmented and airbrushing. But yeah, again, Charlotte comes out with these like a lot. So this is the first time that I got it. I'm not exactly like that, but she does come out with face palettes that are limited edition that kind of come and go. I have one from the Bridgerton collection from Pat McGrath. This one comes with one highlighter. This is probably like my favorite formula, like over the blushes in this particular palette. I don't know why, but I feel like even this formula is more creamy in the blushes than her single that I have, because I have, well, now I have two singles, and I haven't tested that other one, which I told you guys, but I do have like a single in the original cheek formula, the original blush formula, and I feel like these are softer than in the single. I don't know why that is. This one has a little bit of a sheen. I really enjoy this shade. It is my favorite in this palette, but I also love this highlighter. So let me swatch this highlighter for you. Whew. I think it's maybe meant for a deeper skin tone, but I do that all the time. I will use highlighters that are for deeper skin tones constantly, just because I like the way they look. I think I'll go through the smaller ones next. So I just have a blush duo from the Relove line. I also really liked this formula too. So it is in the shade Kindness, or Color Story even. It's a really soft, powdery formula. The only one that's as soft that I have like this is honestly the one from Makeup Forever that I swatched for you before. I'll even swatch the highlighter. I think maybe the highlighter is a little bit deep for my skin tone, but I love this shade of blush. Really good quality. Really, really good quality for a really inexpensive product. Let's go through this duo. This again is a blush and highlighter duo. This is from Unearthly Cosmetics. It's from their Devour collection, and I don't know if this has a shade. It's just Slay in the blush, and then I think Delicate in the highlighter. This looks super intimidating, like both of these, but this actually comes out with a super fluffy brush, like really beautiful on the cheeks, and it's not gritty. It's a really smooth formula. And also like the purple in it, like makes it like super unique and different. This is a little bit of a grittier highlighter formula, so I don't love the highlighter, but I just love the blush. See, it's like not very densely packed on the highlighter, so that's just not my favorite, but the blush is super beautiful, and like you can diffuse it out like with a super fluffy brush. It just looks gorgeous and different on the cheeks. I like it. I have an Ofra palette. I really like this. Don't know if I love Ofra necessarily, but I like this formulation, and I think this is a really unique shade in my collection, but I love the range in here. I think overall, pretty good curated color story, or like variety of colors. They're not swatching the greatest right now. They just look so beautiful and perfect on the cheeks, honestly. They look very airbrushing. Some of these are starting to feel a little bit drier. I think that's why they're not swatching the greatest, but look how just different. Like, depending upon what you're looking for, it's a really good range. So that's why I've held on to this. I got this in a boxy charm. It's the Charm Your Cheeks. I actually really like this one from NYX. It was from the Way of the Water collection from Avatar. And it has like highlighters in it that I don't love. They're like a putty formula, but the blushes are also a putty formula. They don't pick up super well on a super fluffy brush, but honestly, they're so unique and really darn pigmented. I love the way they're so soft and cloud-like on the cheeks. I also love this color range too. This is an interesting shade of blush, but also like unique too. Like, I don't have anything like it, so I don't know, it's just kind of cool. But yeah, putty, a little bit on the softer side. The highlighters are a little bit more like punchy. I want to say they're a softer formula, and they're okay. They're just not my like absolute favorite. I don't really reach for these that much. They're unique shades in my collection. I just overall enjoy, I think, the blush formula just a little bit more. It's different, you guys. It's definitely like this weird, interesting like putty texture, and it's like staining me. Oh no. Look at this yellow. I think I'll do this one next. This is the Mega Cream Plus Glow Giving Coconut Extract 4-in-1 Color Cream from Undone Beauty. This one is in Neapolitan Cream. I enjoy this. I would say though, I don't love the highlighter in here, and I don't necessarily love this shade on me. It's a little bit terracotta. Like, I don't know why I don't like it, because some of my other ones that I have are more terracotta. I just don't like this formula for highlighter. I prefer it so much more for blush. And I have to say, even though I enjoy, let me swatch it here, the formula, I kind of feel like, see, there's the blush. It's a little bit too brown, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's just too deep on the cheeks for its formula. I originally thought I would use it as a bronzer, but I don't like it as a bronzer either. This is probably my favorite shade because it's super shimmery. And this is a really sticky formula. It's very, very tacky. And that's why I don't like it like for the highlighter itself. But these two I really enjoy. It's pretty good. Again, kind of limiting because I don't love the highlighter and I don't love the way this shade looks on me. But otherwise, like, I like a lot of Undone Beauty products that I've tried. And then the last two palettes, so Lunar Beauty and the Jaclyn Hill line. This was from the Bougie Rouge collection, I want to say. This is the Rouge Romance palette. I never reach for this, like, ever. I think it's time for me to really like declutter this. I have kept it because the formula is quite amazingly pigmented and soft. Like, see, now you swatch it and you're like, well, now I need to reach for it. This one here is shimmery. Maybe both of these. No, maybe just the other one. It's like a little bit shimmery. It's just that the formula is so soft and it's like staining and airbrushing that it's hard to let it go, even though I never reach for it. And honestly, these shades might be a little bit vibrant. Like this one and this one might not be something that I would reach for. I reach for these three much more often, but this one is like a really nice shade kind of right now this time of year. It's the formula that gets me to keep it. And finally, I do forget to use this one as well. This is the Nude Prism Blush Palette from Lunar Beauty. I think the tone of these is better suited for me, like this 2/3 of the palette. I forget to reach for this one as well. Like, just like the one from Jaclyn, these get buried in the back of my drawer, I think, and I just don't find myself reaching for it. These ones are pretty. Like, I like the fact that they're in here for deeper skin tones. Gosh, it's such a similar formula when I'm swatching it. So soft and pigmented, like almost staining. That one is so beautiful. This one's such a like lavender type shade. I don't know, it's light pink, but it almost looks like it has some like purples in it too. And I've used this one like quite a bit. It's probably my favorite shade. It's kind of chunky and falling apart. So really pretty. Formula wise, they're so buttery smooth and very similar. So I honestly should pull this out again and use it. And I have this one off to the side. This is kind of a fun one that I got off of Amazon. It's from Gemini Cosmetics. It's the Blush and Bloom handcrafted finely milled 3D silk rose blush. It's so different and I can't figure it out. Did they spray the blush on here? It's really kind of unique. It comes with its own brush at the bottom that I never use. It says launched and first seen at New York Fashion Week. I just got it because it was like an interesting product. Again, like something I never reach for but sits up on my vanity, and it's like sprayed with glitters, but like watch when you touch it, like how much is actually comes up. Like here's what it looks like. You actually get a lot, and you guys saw I just kind of like rubbed my finger in. It's super pretty and it has like gold sparkles in it, but I never remember to reach for it. And I can't tell if this is like a clay formula. Let me see if I can try and break this. I guess the blush is just sprayed on here. How extreme. I mean, honestly, it just keeps going. I have played with this and I just keep expecting it to like dry out, and it doesn't. It's pretty, it's just different. And you know, if you don't like gold sparkles in your blush, you wouldn't like this. It's just kind of gimmicky. Again, I keep it up on my vanity. It does not see a whole ton of use. And it's another product that I still feel like works pretty well and is pretty unique. So I should get some use out of this before it ends up like, you know, just going bad, because honestly it is pretty cool. Okay, here are all of my high-end, oop, this is in the wrong one, powder blushes. So let's scoot this over here. I don't have as many new ones in this basket as like I do some of the other categories. So if you guys have seen like my blush declutters before, you've probably seen a lot of these blushes. I haven't grown, I don't think, the powder side very much in the high-end department. This one is brand new to me. This is from Hermes. This is the Rose Hermes and Rose Diore and number 35. I think that's how it's pronounced. This one is kind of a peachy shade and it has luminosity to it. It has like a scent. Oh my gosh, I'm still stained. It has a little bit of a kind of sweet perfumey scent. So if you guys are sensitive to that, it definitely is fairly strong. I find it like more pleasant than like a lot of luxury products where they have like floral perfume scents. This one is a little bit nicer. I don't know if you guys can see it, but there is a little bit of sheen in this. So I enjoy that it's not like a fully matte blush. I've had these ones from Buxom, the Wanderlust blushes in my collection for a while. I have not reached for them, but I think these are kind of like an OG for the shimmer formula. This one is in Seychelles. I think there are so many other formulas that have beat out these for me. Oh no. I don't know, still so gorgeous. And then this one is in Dolly. I think Seychelles is probably my favorite. Oh, but Dolly is so good too. They're so similar to the Hermes in their luminosity. Like you don't need Hermes pricing. You could get these from the Buxom blushes. They're honestly so, so good. I have two of the Sephora Colorful blushes. These are the newer reformulated ones. I don't know if I have the old version in my like makeup library in the closet. I might. I got this one in a shimmer finish, which is basically like little sparkles inside of like matte is what it looks like. This one is in Shine Bright. I think I almost like the other formula better. I feel like it was more pigmented than this one is. I think these are fine. I just don't know that I find these an extremely like groundbreaking formula in my collection. See how like light that one is? It didn't even swatch well. I think what they did with these is make these like a clean formula. I think that's how they ended up changing them. I don't personally need that. So, you know, if you guys are like that, I think these are good blushes, but more of a buildable formula. Again, prefer the old one. So if you have those, I'd say like hold on to them. I have two of these Rosy Glow blushes from Dior. I have the 001 in my makeup library, which I will show you guys at the end. This one is the 002 in Coral. I don't know why this is gone viral. I've said this many times. It's an okay formula, but to be quite honest, it's like pretty hard when you first use the product, and I feel like you have to kind of get through that top hard layer so that it's a softer formula. I think there are other blushes that do similar things to this. It's nice and I prefer this shade. I just don't find this revolutionary necessarily. I honestly prefer, if we're talking luxury blushes, this one here from Armani is really good. And I want to find my one from Gucci. Like those I would rather see go viral than the one from Dior. And I love Dior, like love, love, love. I love almost everything Dior that I have in my collection. In fact, like the only things from Dior that I haven't loved intensely were like some of the mascaras that I've tried, but everything else I have loved. Maybe some of their foundations don't work great for me, but that's not to say that they're not necessarily a good formula. So this is one of the Luminous Silk Glow Blushes in 30, which is a coral shade. If we're talking like soft, airy blushes, like this I think is $2 less, if I'm not mistaken. It is 38, whereas this one is 40, I think. More pigmented, more airbrushing, comes in a ton more shades. I would so much prefer to reach for this than the Dior, just in terms of performance. Here's the one from Gucci that I love. This is one of the Blush de Beauté in Rosy Beige. It has a bit of a sheen to it. I think this formula is super airbrushing and beautiful. And this also comes in more shades and I don't know, comparably priced to the Dior. And I would prefer to reach for this over the Dior just because these are softer formulas. So yeah, not bad, just not revolutionary for me. If you guys feel that way, I would love to hear it in the comments. If you don't agree, I'd also love to hear that in the comments. All right, I have 3 from Bare Minerals. Bare Minerals, to me, does some of the best powder formula in blushes on the market. That is my unprofessional opinion. I love every one of these. This one is one of the Gen Nude minis in the shade Call Me Blush. This is a fully matte finish. I will not get rid of this. I love it. It's one of my favorite matte mauve. It's like a little pillow. It's so freaking creamy and soft. Anyway, it's one of my favorites. It's so beautiful and flattering. Such a pigmented formula, honestly, when it gets to the cheeks, and it's so soft. It looks like a little cloud on my cheeks. Now for one that's a little bit of a shimmer, but super pigmented, this one of their Gen Nude bronzers in Kiss of Copper is so good. One of the most like pigmented, the formulas feel the same. I think the finishes are just very different. You see how that has like a bit of a sheen to it, but so pigmented. I wonder how much I could keep like swatching this. Now for a good highlighting blush, this one and the Iconic London ones, they're some of the best. Again, like this incredibly smooth formula. Like look at this. Look at their blushes. And they're very different. And so they serve like a distinct purpose. Very matte, very airbrushing, blurring on the skin. This one has a bit of a sheen, and this is a real highlighting blush for a ton of shimmer. I love these, and I think I will always kind of want these at my disposal. I'm a huge fan of the Bare Minerals cheek formula. A couple of K-Beauty brands here. I think they're K-Beauty. I could be wrong. I don't remember. I hate to say that. I'm so sorry. You guys can correct me in the comments, but this one is from Catkin. It's in C05. It is also like a sheeny blush. It's marbleized. It's a little bit gray leaning on my cheeks, so I don't reach for it that often. Like it casts a little bit gray, I feel like, on fair skin. I find that colors like this tend to do that, but it's so buttery soft and silky smooth. Not as smooth as the one from Bare Minerals, but pretty darn close. So if you like a highlighting blush, I think it's really good. I think I got that on Amazon. And then this is the Palace Identity blush from ZC. This one is their Peony Blush in B01 is the shade. I have thought about decluttering this many times. Even though it's like nice packaging, this shade takes over, and I think it's just a little bit too deep for me, too vibrant maybe in the orange. I feel like I have swatched other colors like this. So for me saying that, I don't know if that like means anything at this point. The thing is with this that makes it different than some of the other ones that are this color is you cannot diffuse this color out. It's kind of the only thing. It kind of stays where you put it, and so you can't take some of the vibrancy or some of the pigmentation back. And I think that's kind of what makes it a little bit different than some of the ones that are super deep in shade. They just have a little bit more ability to diffuse this color out than this one here. I am so sorry. I just noticed that there was like a shadow being cast over here to my right from the window. So I just closed the curtain. So this one is very similar. This is an indie brand, Unique Beauty, out of the UK, that performs a lot like the CC one, in that it's a very vibrant shade that is very difficult to diffuse out. This one is in the shade Danakil. It doesn't blend easily, and so pigmentation is intense. So kind of where you put it is pretty much where you're gonna get an intense amount of pigmentation. So it looks super heavy on my cheeks. It's gorgeous, but yeah, again, I feel like it is very, very similar to this one, both I think in shade and in vibrancy, and then the way they perform. I think this one is like more soft of a formula, but I just love a lot of Unique Beauty products. So anyway, so it was like a $3 blush, and I have loved these for so long and do not get enough use out of them. These are the Heaven's Glow blushes from M Cosmetics. This is Fading Clementine, and this one is in Venetian Rose. I love this formula. I don't think that there are many formulas that kind of rival these ones. I feel like I fell in love with this kind of shimmery, super pigmented finish from M Cosmetics first before I found some of the other ones that are very similar. I mean, look at these. You guys, there's something distinctly different about the silkiness in this texture, but still a powder formula to some of the other ones that are shimmery. I mean, they are silky soft. So highly recommend these. I have one of the Hourglass, I think, ambient lighting blushes in Mood Exposure. So pretty different shade than the ones that I have in the palette. This one is like more mauvey. I don't know, maybe it's similar to one of the shades in the palette. It's really pretty, but I just don't find myself reaching for this because I feel like there's just a ton of super creamy powdery formulas in my collection that I find myself reaching for a lot more lately. It was one of the first kind of high-end blushes that I had in my collection when I started building it. Along that same vein, the one from Charlotte Tilbury, the Cheek to Chic in Pillow Talk, I adored this because these two were like my first two kind of high-end blushes that I had when I started building my collection. Now I feel like this is maybe a little bit low-key for me, the Charlotte Tilbury anyway. It's nice, it's just lighter, and I just don't find it having as much pigmentation as like some of my other ones that I kind of prefer a little bit more. So I feel like while this is still a good formula, it's definitely taken a back seat to some of the other ones. I have one of the Kissed by the Sun Multi-Use Cheek Glow in So Cheeky from Iconic London. So good. This is very, very similar to the one from Bare Minerals, the highlighting blush. This is not as smooth of a formula as the one from Bare Minerals, but it's still delightful. It's basically silk on your finger. That's how these feel. So highly adore this product. You can use it, I mean, if you wanted to, then some of the shades maybe as a bronzer. You could use this as a blush. You could use it on the eyes. It's so silky soft. I have some more products that are like duos that I didn't include like in the other stack of the duos and trios that I was showing you guys earlier. So I guess we'll kind of pull those out now. I have one of the Glam Light X Chucky collection. This was like Valentine's Day, so last February. This is one of the blush duos. Now, a lot of people ended up getting the same shade in their blush. I ended up getting two different shades, which I don't think was very common, but mine are distinctly different. So I kind of covet this a little bit because of that, because I still see some people have, oops, this in their collection. They're totally different shades. And I love that I ended up getting ones that were different shades. I don't know, like it's a decent formula, really super pigmented, very vibrant, but I think the reason that I hold on to these is just because I'm so glad that I ended up getting two different shades. These ones I find are even like similar to the one from ZC and the one from Unique Beauty, that you can't really like diffuse this backwards. Like they pack great pigmentation and you can't really go in with a super light hand. Maybe a little bit more so with these blushes than the other two, but it's such a soft, super creamy formula. One of my favorite products, I think, from Kiko Milano, and I have tried quite a bit at this point. This one came from the Powerful Love collection. It's the Matchy Souls Duo Compact in Falling in Mauve. This comes with a highlighter as well. This formula is just fantastic. Both of these are so creamy and delicious and delightful, and I thoroughly enjoy both of these shades on me. They perform really well. They last a decent amount of time. It's the color and it's the performance of this that makes it like one of my favorite Kiko Milano products. And then finally, these are like Christmas releases from Tarte. I did not see them come out with them last year, but I got these many years ago and I will not get rid of them because I just think they perform so darn good. They come with either two matte blushes here, and then one highlighting blush or highlighter. I was actually using this shade as like a highlighter and I loved it. And I have traveled with these so many times that I just won't get rid of them. I don't know why they perform so well after this long, but they do. And I don't know. I don't know why I love this weird purpley, champagne-y, shifty highlighter, but it is so cute. So I won't get rid of these. These are called the Blush Authority Amazonian Clay Cheek Wardrobes. This one has like 3 shades: Frosted Frappe, Sweet Cheeks, and Sugar and Spice. And I think that it goes kind of in that order. And then this is like the more pinky of the 2 color stories. Let me swatch these for you. This is 2 matte finishes and then one that is a shimmery one here at the top. I do not or have not liked the Amazonian Clay formula by itself, like in their individual blushes historically. I don't know why. I feel like they were harder pressed, but this formula is so good. I will keep these until they go bad. And I have no idea when that's going to be because they seem to perform just fine. There's so many good blushes on the market, but I still think these are a treat. I have another blush here from Kiko Milano. I think I'm holding it upside down. This one was from their Joyful Holiday collection. This was the Enchanted Duo blush, and I want to say it's in Gingerbread. Yeah, Gingerbread Biscuit. I kept this because it was kind of a unique shade in my collection. It had the matte star and then a shimmery border, and I have just mixed these 2 shades together. And I really enjoyed this on my skin. It's like, I think, kind of different than a lot of the other ones that I have. It's like terracotta, but it's not as pigmented. It's a little bit more of a buildable formula. I just thought it was kind of beautiful. And with that little bit of sheen, it's just so slight. Such a soft airbrushing formula too. So another product from Kiko that I love. I enjoy their blushes a lot. One here from Laura Mercier, one of her oil-infused color infusion blushes. This one is in Chai. Probably one of my more neutral shades in my collection. Very light, buildable formula. Just very, very neutral. So, I mean, it's not super pigmented, but honestly, I think about this blush and I wore it the other day because I was like, I need something just super light on the cheeks. And this does the trick every time. I have one of the Benefit box blushes in Butterfly. This is a super deep orangey shade with a little bit of shimmer. I don't know why I love this or think it's like unique to some of the other ones. Instead of shifting, it's like orange shimmer inside of orange matte powder. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's a nice soft formula. And I find that some of these Benefit box blushes, at least in the old style packaging, were harder pressed or didn't have a lot of base pigment. They had a lot of sheen to them. I didn't personally enjoy them, but I enjoyed this one. And it may just be that some of the ones that I tested, like California, were more overspray than they were base pigment. But I think this one has a bit more base pigment, so I enjoy it and have held on to it. One from Make Beauty. This is one of their Skin Mimetic Micro Suede blushes in Mystic Mauve. This is an interesting take on mauve. It's almost like purple when it gets to my cheeks. So I have enjoyed this. I like a lot of Make Beauty products. It looks pretty purple when it gets to my fair skin. So I love this shade, but I also love this formula. It's just very soft. And like it says, micro suede, like it's super finely milled. These are also removable packaging, like components as well. You can just like pop these out right here. And this packaging is actually like a packaging that I would want to hold on to because I find that it's consistent and good quality. One of my favorite new blushes right now is this Lancome Blush Subtil in the shade Blushing Tresor. I've had my eye on this for so long. It's like a hot pink with gold shimmers in it. It is so gorgeous. I love the way this looks on my cheeks too. like shimmery without trying too hard, like a hot pink. I mean, go Lancome. Honestly, such a beautiful, soft formula that's so flattering on fair skin in that particular shade. I have one here from Laura Geller. This is one of her Baked Blush and Brightens in Down to Earth. It's supposed to be a satin finish blush. I think it's kind of a mauve-y shade, if I remember. Has some sheen to it. Yeah, nice sheen, really pigmented. My favorite thing from Laura Geller is this blush. It takes such little product to go such a long way, and it's such a beautiful sheen. Then I have two of the what are these called? Color Fuse blushes from House Labs, Pomelo Peach, and then this one is Hibiscus Haze. Hibiscus Haze is my favorite. It's so soft and delightful. It's like one of the first bright pink blushes that I liked for being bright pink. Pomelo Peach is like a peachy shade. They're just so soft and delicious. They're super creamy when you touch them. They're super creamy on the brush too. And getting to your cheeks, it's a really decent formula. Again, probably my favorite thing from House Labs. The final four blushes that were in that bin, I have one of the singles from Pat McGrath that I told you guys about, the Skin Fetish Divine Blush. This one is in Divine Rose. I find this one to be a little bit more hard pressed in here than the trio that I showed you guys earlier. I don't know why, it just doesn't pick up as well. Like, it's not as creamy. It's a little bit of a harder formula. It's a nice swatch. It's a pretty shade too. It just does not pick up on a brush as easily as the trio that I showed you, or the two blushes that were in the trio. I think that I'm finding I enjoy this formula more than I did when I first got it. I really kind of felt like this was an overpriced blush, especially because I'm over here swatching some really beautiful ones that are about half the price. But I think that as I kind of break through this top layer a little bit more, the formula is a little bit softer, and that's maybe kind of what the problem has been on this one. It was just like a harder pressed one in the pan. I don't love the packaging though. This gets me every time. Hello. I don't know why mine is so difficult, but it is. Then I have one here from MAC. This is one of the mineral blushes in Sweet Enough. I got this at an Ulta 21 Days of Beauty sale, like the one before last. It's honestly really pretty, nice, creamy, and soft formula. I don't think it's anything to really write home about, having swatched now hundreds of blushes at this point, but I think it's a good and solid one. It's lighter, like lighter pigmented than some of the other ones. Then I have one from Tarte. This is one of their Cloud Crush blurring blushes in Velvet Crush. I do have a different shade that's in my like makeup library that I won't use, but I like this one. The only thing that I find with this is sometimes when I'm picking it up on a really fluffy brush, it's way more powdery than I wish it was. I have a hard time like getting it to pick up on a brush. So I feel like I'm burning through the product a little bit. And I don't know what that's about because I don't remember it doing that with the other shade, the really, really cool tone pink one. But for whatever reason, it does do it with this one. It's kind of nice on a swatch, but I feel like it matters what brush I use. And if it's not the right brush, it can look a little bit patchy. Otherwise, the formula is very soft. And this final one here is a tiny little mini I got from probably a birthday kit, I want to say 3 years ago, from NARS. It's Orgasm X, so it has a little bit of a shimmer to it. And it's a little bit more, I think, of a vibrant shade than the original Orgasm. Maybe this isn't. Maybe this is like the original with shimmer, but I just thought it was a little bit more vibrant. It's just kind of cool, and that's the reason that I haven't let this go. And I've traveled with this too because I like when they're like smaller products, but man, this is silky soft, so silky. I think NARS, again, because you guys saw my cheek palettes, I just think they do a really good job with their powder formula. Most of the products that I have from NARS, I thoroughly enjoy. There's very few that I do not like from NARS. So the blush is no exception. Really pretty, really silky, solid formula. Here is the next set. This is like sticks, liquids, creams, really anything that doesn't come in a compact that is high end. There are some more affordable K-beauty brands in here and like Ulta, things that come from Ulta, so not necessarily high end, things like Juvia's Place, and there is Ulta brand in here. So it's basically anything in here that isn't a compact that is not specifically sold in the drugstore. So I'm just gonna move this again kind of off to the side. Let's go through some of the luxury ones first. This is from Westman Atelier. This is the Baby Cheeks Blush Stick in Petal. I think this is probably the most popular shade. Pretty popular product. I think it is for good reason. It's a pretty simple formula. I want to say it's like a cream to powder finish, maybe has a tiny bit of radiance to it, but it's really opaque. It's just a simple formula to work with, and I think that's why it's really popular. Plus the packaging is luxe and kind of superior. Really, really strong magnet. A lot of Westman Atelier products are very weighted and just delightful, honestly, to have in your collection. Then I have one that's really, really new to me. This is from Le Bouge Rouge. This is the Le Blush Nude. It is in the shade Nude, I want to say. Yes. And it's honestly just like the component itself. It comes with like a little washer on the end of it. You just pull it out, and this is the whole blush itself. You turn it at the bottom. It's a really nude shade, I mean, just as it implies. It's not like super creamy. It's kind of a stiffer formula, and it's lighter. It's a more buildable formula, but it's still really pretty. Le Bouge Rouge just gets me pretty much every time. I just like their simplistic packaging. I just overall really enjoy a lot of their stuff. Let me zoom in a little bit more. I just find their products very sophisticated, very simple and easy to use, and I usually really enjoy the quality. I have one here from Victoria Beckham. This is one of her Cheeky Posh sticks in Knickers. I also like this. I think it's very similar to the one from Le Bouge Rouge, except it's like a little bit more creamy. It's a more pigmented formula, not terribly dissimilar, but just a teeny bit more emollient. I think this is like a little bit on the drier side. I really do enjoy a lot of stuff from Victoria Beckham. Again, packaging here is very nice. I think that's it for what I would consider like the super like luxury in terms of price point items. I want to go through, I think, all of like the rest of the sticks. I have quite a bit. I have two from Kiko Milano. These are the Velvet Touch Creamy Stick Blushes in the shade 08 and 03. One's more mauve and one is more peach. Those are, you know, my two blush shades that I go for all the time, so it's usually what I get. This is a decent formula. It's a cream to powder. The problem with this, I find, it lays terribly on top of powder. It doesn't blend well on top of powder, so you have to put this on top of just your foundation before setting it. I think it's a little bit of a finickier formula. I did get these on Amazon. You cannot get these on the Kiko Milano website. They're just not sold there. They're nice and like opaque and a fairly easy formula if you put them on top of foundation only. But I have other stick ones in my collection that I think perform better than this. Even though I told you guys I like a lot of stuff from Kiko Milano, it's just having quite a few sticks. I feel like those are more finicky than some of the other ones. So speaking of those ones that I think are just honestly like better stick formulas, any one of these are better stick formulas. These ones are a little bit different. The two on the end don't perform exactly like these two. The Summer Fridays one is a balm. It has a lot of decent pigmentation. It's the Blush Balm Stick in Dusty Rose, but it's more like juicy than, let me swatch it here, than the others. But like, I prefer this formula. It goes on top of powder really nicely. Even though it's a balm, so it's a little bit of a glossier formula, it still like is pigmented and performs like a cream to powder in that it's just very simple. This formula is one of my favorites currently from Summer Fridays. This one from M Cosmetics is a cream to powder. It's in Venetian Rose. It's the So Soft, I think just So Soft blush stick, but it's so much more pigmented and more emollient than these other two. It doesn't take a lot. It's a very, very pigmented product, but really, really good. And then this one from ABH is just their blush stick in Latte. This is a drier formula because it's cream to powder, but see, not quite as emollient, a little bit more matte than both of these. But the one from Wander Beauty is a duo, but it's very similar to the one from ABH. This is the On The Glow Blush and Illuminator, so it has a highlighter on one end as well. This one is so much more matched to the ABH formula, but it's so creamy and easily blendable, and nobody talks about this Blush and Illuminator stick from Wander Beauty. In fact, not a lot of people talk about Wander Beauty, but I happen to just love their stuff. I think their stuff is really good. You guys saw their compact blush. Super underrated in my opinion. I want to say this has a shade somewhere. Coral Rose is the color on the blush, and Nude Glow is on the highlighting stick. I actually missed one luxury. This was the Chanel. This is the Le Beige blush stick in number 24, blush number 24, which is a coral shade with shimmer. This is so beautiful. It's again like a cream to powder, but it's quite pigmented. I forgot to mention this one. I like this one, I think, a little bit better than the Posh stick from Victoria Beckham, but they're not terribly dissimilar formulas. Okay, these are the rest of my sticks. Let me kind of move this over here. Kind of different formulas here. These two from Pat McGrath are balms. What does she call these? The Divine Blush Legendary Glow Color Balms. This one is in Peach Lotus. These have more radiance and they're more of a buildable formula. I still really like them though. They're more pigmented than you would think of with a balm. They kind of remind me of the one from Summer Fridays. I like this formula a little bit better because I think it's a little bit more opaque and maybe just a little bit more juicy, but these are good. They're not bad. They're just cheap packaging and a higher price point. This one is in the shade Paradise Peony. You can imagine it's kind of a peach shade and maybe a pinker shade. The thing I noticed with these is they don't translate super differently, like on the cheeks, even though they look quite different. I like them. Again, could have done with more expensive packaging for this price point, but it's not a bad formula. Then this one is the Nudies Matte from Nude Sticks. It's in the nude is the shade. This one reminds me of like maybe the Kiko Milano ones, just a drier formula. It's a fully matte. I think this one works better on top of powder than the ones from Kiko Milano. So I prefer this formula just a little bit more because it's a less finicky formula. This one from Laura Geller, this is an apricot spritz. It's called the Italian Marble Blush Stick. I think this formula is forgettable formula. I don't remember to reach for this stick. Of all the sticks that I have that I just went over for you guys, I think I like this one the least. I thought I would love this because I loved the powder blush, but these are just like smoother formulas. I think overall, there's a hair there. So not a recommendation from me. If I'm gonna recommend anything from Laura Geller, it's gonna be her baked powder products. The rest of these are all on the smaller side. This is my favorite product from REM Beauty. This is her cheek and lip stick in the shade Audition. So pigmented, so opaque, so creamy, matte finish. I think this is a really good formulation. If I would recommend anything from REM, haven't tried that much, but the stuff that I have tried, I have decluttered, I want to say every other product that I tried. This is the only thing that I kept because I just think it's quite amazing. Now this is a very different formula from Make. This is their Heat Stroke Blush Stick. This one is in the shade Inflamed. Now if you want something super vibrant and juicy, then these are ones to check out. They're quite juicy, but they do not come in any kind of like toned down shades. The Heat Stroke, like they're really punchy. This is like maybe the lightest one that they have. I've checked them out. They're all like super vibrant. I think these are cool though. Like if you like a variety of different finishes and formulas, these Make Heat Stroke blushes are ones to check out, honestly. Now, this one from Ulta is kind of on the drier side. This is the Too Cheeky for lips and cheeks. This one has a bit of sheen to it. It's got like sparkles in it, which isn't like terribly dissimilar to the one from like Chanel, honestly. It's a little bit more of a pink shade, but that's kind of like the same little sparkles that the one from Chanel has. And this one is in the shade Charmed. I think it's like a pinky peach shade. It's really pretty. I do not mind this formula. I honestly think that these are pretty affordable. I just think that kind of rivals like the Chanel one, maybe not in shade, but both in like texture and finish. Then this is a water blush from Undone Beauty. I showed you guys their compact. I also like this. It's in the shade Peach. It looks bright red, see? But it is freezing cold to the touch. It's a fully like water formula. It's cold. It's super cold going onto my hands. It's more sheer. It's like a stain basically. I don't have anything else like this in my collection, so I like to hold on to it. Even though I don't reach for it that often, it still is really pretty. It's really interesting formula. This is my least favorite stick blush from Well People. This is their Supernatural Stick Multi-Use Blush in the shade, what do you want to bet? It's peach, yeah. It's kind of an unremarkable formula. Like, okay, it's a little bit stiffer, has a little bit of a sheen to it, but it's kind of gritty. don't know if you guys can like see that on my swatch. I don't love this or their bronzer stick. I will probably end up decluttering this at some point because I don't know. I just don't find it super remarkable in the stick of 20 stick blushes I have over there. So not a recommendation for me, but if you love clean beauty, then Well People is all clean beauty. And it's also sold at Target. Here are all of the liquids that have a doe foot applicator or some type of applicator. So I have 2 of the Juvia's Place liquid blushes. I think they're just called the liquid blushes. Marigold and Peach Rose. I enjoy these. The way that I apply these is very similar to the ones that I was telling you before. Is I lay an even layer on my hand and then bounce the end of a damp sponge into it. Actually, someone in my comments suggested doing that to apply these, and that is honestly the best way to diffuse the color out. It's a super pigmented, very opaque, very long-lasting formula, but if you don't want to go in too heavy, which you can easily do with these doe foot applicators, plus this formula is just super pigmented, I find that that's really the best way to apply them. Plus the shade range in these is fantastic and they're not super expensive. I prefer these ones and the ones from Moira Beauty, which I feel like are pretty similar. These are more pigmented than the ones from Moira, but I think the formula is similar in that they're kind of a glossier, little bit more sheeny product. I just think that you wouldn't enjoy this formula if you didn't like a really pigmented blush. And I have these 2. These are K-Beauty from Pew. They're the Juicy Pang blushers. The shades that I have are always so hard to find on these. This is BE01. I got these off of Amazon. I feel like you can probably get them from YesStyle too. They have like a nail polish applicator. And when I first applied these, I did not like how sheer it was coming out. The more I was blending it in, the more it was going away. So I kind of feel like more is more with this product. You have to go in with a pretty heavy layer, but it's a really watery formula. So I feel like with these, the best way to apply them is to apply a really liberal amount to the cheeks and then just dab it in. Don't blend too much because I feel like it will kind of blend away to nothing. And I thought that the nail polish like applicators on these would be a little bit gimmicky, but I find that they're really nice with this particular formula. They're just different. They're lightweight and watery, and they're not like overly pigmented stains on your cheeks. They're just a little bit juicy, as the name implies. This pink one is PK03 is the shade. Then I have one from Simi Haze. This is one of their Sun Flush All Over tints, and this one is in the shade Peach. This is a small doe foot applicator. It's also sheeny product. It has a little bit of luminosity to it. This is actually really nice. It's a high price point for this product and the packaging is very difficult to store, but I still think it's beautiful. It's not overly pigmented. It's just really silky and like a decent sheen to it. And again, a product that I feel like when people tested this, they maybe didn't love, but I actually really enjoyed it. I have their compact blush too. Same thing with this. A lot of people said this was too sheer. This is the Afterglow Liquid Blush and Orgasm, but I think it's what it is. The products don't have to be identical to what we love. If they do a good job for what they are, I think that they should be rated accordingly. This is a more sheer, juicy formula. It's supposed to be more like juicy on the cheeks. And that's what it is. I don't find it patchy. I don't find the application difficult. I don't even find the pigmentation bad. It's just a juicier formula. So if you like something a little bit more sheer and juicy, I think this is really good. Then along the same vein, this Tarte Man-Eater Blush and Glow is a plumping blush in the shade Coral. This is also super juicy and not as sheer as the Afterglow one from NARS. It has a little bit more pigmentation, but same thing, just a more sheeny, I keep saying juicy because I don't know how else to describe it, just a more radiant finish to it. I also really enjoy that if I'm looking for a radiant liquid blush. And then finally, this one from Euphoria is the Turn Up the Sunshine BYO Blush Oil. I guess the shade is Turn Up the Sunshine, sorry, it's the BYO Blush Oil. This is a pH product, so it starts to kind of go on a little bit sheer, and then it stains the cheeks, but it still remains glossy, and the stain is like pink. It's honestly a really interesting product. and it's not overly sticky. I think I thought it would be, but it's not, and it remains like glossy where like the stain is like pink underneath. It's again different, like this Undone Beauty water blush, just a totally different formula than all of my other blushes, and that's kind of why I like it. So if you're into trying different formulas or just different kinds of blushes in general, it's actually really good, I think. The rest are all of my tubes. So I have 3 of the matte blush wands from Charlotte and 1 of the high blushes, so it's the shimmer finish. I prefer the matte more because the shimmer emphasizes so much texture. Not that it's not beautiful and it like doesn't have a time and a place, but I just don't love the way that it emphasizes like all of the texture on my cheeks. It does it so much more than what I would really like. This one is Pillow Talk, this one is Pink Pop, and this one is Peach Pop. They're so easy to work with. Like super easy swatch, total matte finish. They dry down, they last all day. This one is in Pink Gasm, and it, again, super beautiful, super pigmented, nice luminosity and sheen to it. It just emphasizes everything. So I always feel like my cheeks look so much more textured than they normally do. Otherwise, I think these are all blendable and pigmented and super easy to apply to the cheeks, and like everything is great about them. Love the matte formula, super big fan. These are the last of the tubes here. I think in order of how I enjoy these is probably this one from Urban Decay. It's the Hydromaniac Blush Glow Hydrator in the shade Wrecked. This is a pretty pigmented liquid blush. This is the Juvia's Place one, like it totally stained me. This here is again such a juicy formula, but like the pigmentation is one of the better pigments of the juicier ones that I have. It's such a good formula. It's not sticky. It feels like an oil. That's how smooth it is on the cheeks. Super, super good formula. Highly enjoy that. Highly recommend it. Then this one from Glossier, the Cloud Paint in Dusk, probably comes up next. This is also a very pigmented formula. This one kind of dries down a little bit better than the other ones, but just a little bit of product is needed. I forget about that one a lot though. There's so many others that I feel like just do a similar job. And at the time, Glossier had something that a lot of other companies didn't have, but now I feel like there's a lot of others on the market. For example, this one from Kulfi, it's the Mendy Moment blush. This one is in Garland Glow. This one, similar packaging, similar top. This one is a more vibrant shade, but see how similar they look in finish. The formula is a little bit different. This one is more like putty-like, and this one isn't. This is way more emollient, but the finish is like almost exactly the same. These are less expensive than the Mendy Moments from Kulfi, so I would recommend the ones from Glossier over the Kulfi one, but this has some pretty darn vibrant and unique shades if you're into that. Then this one from Danessa Myricks, I never use this on the eyes, I never use this on the lips, but it can be used for cheeks, lips, and eyes. This is the Color Fix in Latte. I love this on the cheeks. Like, oh, that's all the product you need. Same thing, I basically will like do a circle on the back of my hand and tap my brush into it. It's a really staining, very long lasting formula. You only need a tiny, tiny little dot. These are great, I feel like, for makeup artists because they're small like this and they're clean. So you can put this easily like on like a makeup palette or something and apply it in a multi-use way. So I feel like a lot of Danessa's stuff is good for makeup artists, but it's a fully matte finish. And then the last one is the Stay Cheeky blush from Ulta. This one is in the shade Preppy Peach. This one is the one I was telling you that I also like, but it's a really liquidy, like almost gel-like formula. Oh wow, it needs to be shaken. It's a little bit separated in there. Super juicy formula. Again, if you're looking for a flush on the cheeks, really nice. There's nothing wrong with it. Decent pigmentation. Again, I apply it back of my hand, bounce my sponge or brush in, and it works really well. Okay, I went and grabbed all of my compact. I want to say they're high end. Some of this stuff obviously comes from Ulta, so it is a little bit more affordable. Again, I'm just gonna kind of set it off to the side. So I'll go over these two first. These two are About Face. These are like their balms, I want to say. Cheek Freak Blush Balm. They're kind of in a similar shade. I didn't realize that because I bought them online. I thought they would be like a little bit more different when they got here. So this is Quickie and this is Raunchy. I've heard like polarizing things about these. People have said, I think mostly they just disliked them. I actually really like them. It's a balm, but it's a powder finish. It's not like, it doesn't have the same real luminosity that a lot of the other balms that I swatched for you were. And honestly, if you pick these up on a sponge, they are so pretty on the cheeks. See how they're like powder finish and they just like kind of buff out to be like airbrushing? I personally like that. Again, just different. Not all my blushes have to be the same. I really like a ton of different formulas and I find these to be quite unique, but nothing wrong with the pigmentation if you buff these out. So that's my take on it. Then I have two of the Makeup by Mario, I don't know what I was saying, Soft Pop Plumping Blush Veils in Barely Blushing and Just Peachy. I thoroughly enjoy these as well. Again, kind of a different formula. They're very juicy, very thin formula. So they look super healthy on the cheeks. Not overly pigmented, just juicy. Again, that's okay. I just like this effect when I'm looking for something lighter and a little bit more like plump looking on the cheeks. I enjoy these. Another one that doesn't dry down but is super plump looking on the cheeks is the Maracuja Juicy Blush in Rose from Tarte. I don't love the shade. Oh my gosh, look at that. It's like melting. I don't love the shade range in this. I think they only have 3 colors. That's a little bit disappointing, but this is such a juicy formula. Again, like really richly juicy. I don't know how else to say it. Also doesn't dry down. You can even see like just how juicy it is like in the pan. I think the pigmentation is good though, and it's a really long lasting formula. It almost kind of stains like once you stipple it into the cheeks. Here's the compact that I was talking about from Simi Haze. It is sold in Sephora. This one's a duo, so it comes with a matte finish. I want to say this is the matte one, and then this one is more of a dewy finish. This is in the shade Tropic. I love this concept of having a dewy finish and then a matte finish. I don't know, you get 2 different formulas for the price of 1, but I like both formulas. Like for what they are, fully matte, little bit of sheen, just dewy. It is a higher price point and it's like genuinely kind of a hockey puck shape and weight. It's very, very weighted, but it has a nice magnetic closure. It's not hard to store. I have 2 here from Melt. These are their cream blush lights. I have Pink Sand and Honey Thief. I love these. These were like some of my favorite cream blush formulas. I fell in love with these long after they released, but they're perfect, like perfect, compact, tiny bit of radiance, super easy to blend in, last all day. I really love the pigmentation on these too. My swatch on this first one wasn't great, but honestly, they're the easiest thing to blend in. I literally bounce a sponge or a brush into this, tap it onto my cheeks like 3 times, fully done with the application. Love this formula. Probably still one of my favorite formulas in a compact that I have in my collection. Then I have one here from Rowan. This is an acquired taste, I think. It smells like eucalyptus. So it has a pretty strong scent in my personal opinion. So it might not be everybody's preference. This one is in the shade Natural Rose and it's a sticky formula. I have traveled with this. I do like it. It's kind of like a little bit hard. It's just a little bit of a harder formula and it does remain sticky. So kind of an acquired taste if you ask me. It's not overly pigmented. It's nice. I would just rather reach for these if I'm looking for something dewy and radiant than the one from Rowan, just personally. One here from Say. This is their Glow Sculpt. This one is in Peach Glow. I find this formula to be very unique. Pretty hard to do, but it's like a powder finish, so deeply, richly pigmented with that gold sheen again. So probably like one of my favorite, I want to say cream to powder formulas in a compact that has sheen. I think Say did a really good job in this formulation. I maybe would have liked to see like a larger pan. Other than that, it's great, and it is a removable compact. Another great cream to powder formula is the one from Bobbi Brown. This is the Pot Rouge for lips and cheeks in Calypso Coral. I take that back. I actually don't think this is a cream to powder. No, this has a little bit of sheen to it. See, it's been so long since I've tested it. I'm getting it confused too with the Danessa one. This is so easily picked up on a brush. It holds its opacity. Not all of them do that, kind of as you see on some of my swatches. Some you really have to work in, and this one you don't. Same thing with what I was just talking about, which is the Danessa Myrix one. This is a fully cream to powder formula. This one is in Rosé and Brunch. This is like the yummy skin blurring color balm. Who knows? The names are so long. But this did win Allure Best of Beauty. This is so easy. Like, I almost picked up another shade in this, but I think a lot of the other shades are probably pretty vibrant for light skin tones, so I didn't end up getting it. Bobbi Brown has the same opacity, it just has sheen to it, whereas this one is fully matte. Love this one. Favorite cream to powder release in 2023. Two K-beauty brands here, Kaja. This is the Mochi Pop in Atmosphere. It's called the Bouncy Blendable Blush, and Atmosphere is in 02. This is like a putty formula. I enjoy it. Just fun, cute. What else? Fully matte finish. Easy, simple, cute. Then this one is the Jelly Dough Blusher from Holika Holika in the shade Grapefruit Jelly. Has a little like spongy thing here. I don't use it. This is also a putty formula, and it is also a fully matte finish. Sorry, I'm like off camera. Again, easy, simple, that's it. All right, as far as like radiant finishes go, I think these ones all have a slightly radiant finish. I wanna say that's probably, and maybe this one right here from Seraphine Botanicals. This one is from Shayna B, Miami. It's the cream blush in Rosa. It's pretty. I don't think to reach for this though, just because I have so many other formulas that I really enjoy. Oh, well, and I can't remember its formula. It looks more matte, doesn't have a lot of sheen to it. I thought it did, but again, I think I'm confusing this with the hard candy one. I don't know why. I guess they're just in like bright pink packaging. But this one you can see is more matte finish, a drier formula. Man, I'm so stained. Then this one from Stila is the convertible color dual lip and cheek cream in Gerbera. I honestly don't think they make this shade anymore. I've had a hard time finding this shade. They make one that's like comparable, but I don't think they make Gerbera. This one is a little bit of a stickier formula, but super opaque and super easy to blend in. But yes, has a little bit of a sheen. I honestly think this is a highly underrated formula. Like, not different than some of the like new releases that have come out. So this is just, I think, a little bit of an older product, but super good. I think the Tower 28 one is kind of comparable to this. Maybe not quite as pigmented. This is the Beach Please in Magic Hour. No, I think it's as pigmented, especially in this shade, but those are two very similar formulas. The Stila though, I feel like is less sticky, less thick, I think. It's a thinner formula. This next one is the Ulta Beauty Blush Beam Cream Blush in Cocktail Hour. It's really thin, but then once it gets to the cheeks, it's kind of sticky. I don't know, it even kind of like looks sticky. It's really pretty. It has that, again, same thing that Ulta likes to do with their peach colors, is add this like gold tint to it. So all of the blushes that I have from Ulta are in similar peachy shades, and they all have that gold reflex in it. It's nice. Again, it's a radiant finish, but it's on the stickier side, so it doesn't ever like fully dry down. I think the same thing for the Seraphine Botanicals. This is the Primrose and Cream Lip and Cheek Cream. This one is, I guess, it's just a single palette because it comes with 3 different shades. I want to say this is like a stickier formula. It's been so long since I reached for it. So let me take it back a little bit because this feels like, yeah, this is more of a matte finish blush. I remember this being stickier. This is like one of my longest lasting blushes though. This is an expensive product. I got this in a BoxyCharm, but when I looked up the price of it alone, I was like, whoa, Like, I wasn't expecting that. And not that there aren't other blushes in here that like are relatively priced. It's just that I've never heard of this brand before. Like, no one talks about it. So I was a little bit shocked at the price point. They're all really beautiful shades and they're all really opaque, pigmented, staining, long lasting, dry down, super easy formula to use. I haven't tried anything else from the brand. The last one here is from Ritual Defeat. This is one of their Inner Glow Cream Pigments in Desire. These are, again, safe for like eyes, cheeks, I think. I think this is like a multi-use pigment. This also smells like eucalyptus. Yeah, like a pretty strong kind of eucalyptus-y scent. I prefer, if I'm gonna reach for, where's my Rowan one? One that is a thicker formula that has that kind of scent to it that's maybe a little bit more sheer when you blend it out. Ritual Defeat wins over Rowan. This is just an easier formula to blend in. I like it, but I don't love the smell, so I find myself not reaching for this. And lately, I have been trying more Ritual Defeat products, and I am loving everything else that I am trying from the line. It's honestly so good. I may end up picking up more stuff from Ritual Defeat because I'm enjoying it so much. So if it wasn't for that scent, beautiful, beautiful product. But just for me personally, the scent is it's not my favorite, and it's pretty strong and it lingers. It definitely smells like a plant, like some sort of eucalyptus plant. All right, these are all, I think, matte finishes. If I'm remembering correctly, they're all, like these two are almost putty, and these two, they're very different, but they're very matte formulas. This is one of the Glow Play blushes in Cheer Up from MAC. Also really enjoy this. It kind of reminds me of the Kaja one. It's just like bouncy like that, but it's a drier formula. It's really pretty and super easy to work with. I mean, like, you couldn't get a much easier formula to work with if you like this kind of like drier putty formula. This one from Item Beauty is like kind of the one from Oma by Sharon C, that it doesn't even look like a cream blush. It's more like a powder. This one is the Blush and Light Cream Blush, and it's verified. Pretty sure you can't even get this anymore. But yeah, it's pretty darn similar to the Oma by Sharon C, like Swatches, like a powder, but it is like a drier cream formula. And then this one from Giorgio Armani. This was my favorite matte blush release. I want to say of 2022. I don't think this came out last year. So this year it would have been Danessa, and then last year it would have been the Armani Neo Nude Melting Color Balm in the shade 30. It's the same shade that I have in the powder one. This one swatches like, let me see if I can just do it for you, okay? Just. Do you guys see that? It's intense, fully matte, super easy to blend in. This one swatch went the whole arm. Need I say more? Last but not least in this stack is one from Laura Mercier. This is the one I was telling you guys. I don't think she makes this shade anymore. It's Praline, cream cheek color. And I've tried to find Praline and I cannot find it anymore. She still sells these, but not in the shade, which is a darn shame. It's a tiny little bit of product. Mine is kind of drying out, but you know, it's a really easy, pretty matte formula. Easy to work with, super simple, blends seamlessly, perfectly. This is another one that I would like to put into a project pan. By the way, that one from Becca, I moved up to my vanity, the quad with the powder, baked powder formula. I ended up moving that to my vanity because I'm gonna try and use that every day. I will probably never be able to pan it because I'm sure like a tiny bit of product goes a long way, but like they're so deep. Like the product, there's just a lot of it. So anyway, just letting you know, side note, that I'm trying to make an effort to kind of use the older stuff up. Okay guys, this is the final set of blushes. These I pulled out of my closet. I keep these for reference. These are not in my permanent collection. I do not use them. So we are ending with a bunch of blushes that I'm not gonna have the most positive things to say about. But I feel like it's fitting that I kind of show you guys these last. They are in my collection, but I use them for reference in case I want to talk about a certain formula. But I just find other formulas to be better in my collection, and I would rather give those ones love, or it's a shade thing. So let's move these over. And let me pull out some of my compact ones. So these are all of my powder compact ones. For one reason or another, I don't absolutely love these. This one from Too Faced is the same as the blush in Candy Clouds that I have in the other shade, but this one is just not a shade that I like. If I can get this open, it's that like really, really bright pink shade, and I personally don't care for it on my cheeks. I think it just kind of makes me look a little bit sick. So I think it's probably pretty for fair skin. I just happen to not like it. And I wanted to keep this one because, I don't know, in case I reference this formula, this one I don't find to be as patchy as like the other one, or as powdery of a formula for whatever reason in this particular shade. It's just that I don't love the shade, even though it's super popular. And then I was telling you guys about this one that I had, the Dior in 001. Again, just not a remarkable formula, but it's mostly a shade thing. So that's all it is. I already told you guys about the formula. This one is also a shade thing. I like it, and I had my eye on these for so long because I thought they were cute. It's the Clinique Cheek Pop Blush in Nude Pop. This is too light of a shade on me, and it ends up casting gray on my cheeks. I don't know why. It's just not overly pigmented, and sometimes these blushes that have a little bit of sheen to them that aren't overly pigmented, that are in this kind of peachy mauve shade on me, tend to look a little bit gray on my cheeks, like maybe with my freckles. I don't know what it is. I don't love the shade. The formula is very, very soft baked formula, but I wish it was more pigmented. I thought this would be more pigmented, but it's in Nude Pop, so it's a lighter shaded blush anyway. It's just that it turns gray on me. And then I disliked this formula from ColourPop. This was just their permanent pressed powder blush in Shortbread. I hear a lot of people say that they like these. It's a powdery formula that ends up looking patchy on my cheeks. I don't love it, like amongst all the other ones that I showed you guys. If I'm talking like drugstore, okay, Milani is better. Essence is better. Catrice is better. There just are other better formulas than ColourPop, and it's so freaking powdery that like, I don't know why anyone really enjoys these when I find them an extremely unremarkable formula. So you guys saw I was just like blowing powder off. Like, they're extremely powdery, especially when I pick it up on a brush, there's just powder everywhere. I just think, why, when you can grab something that isn't like that? In fact, this one from e.l.f., this is their primer infused blush in Always Cheeky. Get this instead of ColourPop, in my personal opinion. The reason that I pulled this out for reference, like, look, no additional kick up in the pan, sorry. It's because I had so many and they weren't all fitting in my drawer that at the time that I was kind of like doing a declutter, I had forgotten that I had this because I reach for the Essence and the Milani and those other ones just more. And you know, this is a similar shade to the one from Laura Mercier blush, so I would rather reach for that than this one. This is still better than the ColourPop in my opinion. Then this is the old formulation of the Colorful Matte Blush in Love Child. So I did replace, I think this is the same shade as like the shimmery one that I have now. Different formula. I could be wrong. I thought it was. But this is not shimmery. This is like a fully matte finish. And again, like, formulation is okay, just like the other ones. I don't think they're better than some of my other powder blushes. I don't think they needed to reformulate, and I don't really see a huge difference. It's probably an ingredients thing, but again, took this out because they don't make this formulation anymore, and I would rather use the other ones instead. Then I have one from Oma Beauty. This was so expensive for like how I felt about it. It's the Double Take Skin Perfecting Blush Duo in Fair Lady. It's a shimmer side and a matte side. It's a shade thing mostly. This one looks like a hot mess on my cheeks. This looks like I got burned. Like I actually got sunburned. It's just not flattering. And I thought, well, you know, if I'm trying to make it work for me, it shouldn't stay. It just looks so brown when it gets to my skin, like on my face. I don't like it. I like it when I mix both of them together, but I have that 7 times over, that I have ones that you don't need to mix together. And I don't love it this on its own. I think it's just not enough base pigment for me. So practicality wasn't there. And I think it was like $33 or something. So it was a little bit disappointing. And then I have the one from Juvia's Place. This is the Blush Rouge in Volume 2. Again, I did not like the shade. Honestly, it's quite similar to the Oma Beauty. Didn't love the way it looked on me. And I liked this shade more, but then I was like just using one out of the duo, and it's soft and it's creamy and it's nice. I think it's mostly a shade thing. I could live without this, and I hated this one. So I ended up holding on to it, just not keeping it in my permanent collection because I want to get more use out of the ones that are in there. So these two are like the last two cream in compact and then in pots. The rest are like sticks or wands. This one is from Kir Weiss. It is one that has like the shimmer finish. I cannot remember the shade, you guys. I'm so sorry. But it's like the more mauve-y shade that has shimmer. This is the same thing as the Clinique. It's just that shade that ends up, I didn't even get all of the swatch off, that ends up like looking gray on my skin. It's just the way that it is. I love this formula. It's so nice. But yeah, it casts a little bit gray on certain days, especially when you blend it out on the skin with a brush. It just doesn't hold its pigment, and so yeah, it kind of looks gray on me. Thought about replacing it, so when I do, I'll swap it out, but I haven't replaced it yet, so it's still in its compact. Then I have this one from NARS. This was a miss. This is the Air Matte Blush in Orgasm. I had my eye on this for so long, and this is like a putty formula, and ideally it would be nice. It's just so freaking sheer. Like, let me do better and not go so rough. It's just so sheer, and it's like, I don't know, like nothing ever shows up and it feels like oils on my skin. So it was a miss. It was a miss. Like the Pacifica one, which is like $5, or I think I'm being a little facetious. I think it was more than that, but this could have been that, but it wasn't. And the Pacifica one was better than this. I will go into the two like sticks that I have. This one is also a miss from NARS. This is one of the multiple in South Beach. This is a shade thing. It just doesn't look great on my skin. And it's so oily and slick, and it just doesn't have enough pigment. All three of these just are very lightly pigmented. So yeah, same kind of oily consistency as the Air Matte one. Didn't love it. Sorry, miss for me. Then I have the Wonder Stick from NYX. It's the dual-ended cream blush stick. It is in the shade a light peach on this side and pink, baby pink on this one. Here's what they're calling light peach. Nope. This is like a bright ass pink. So I don't know where they're getting light peach from. And this is baby pink. So the names were wrong. I don't love these shades on me. The formula is like a fully matte cream to powder matte finish. It's just that these shades just didn't look that great on me. I have other shades that I love, and like the numerous sticks that I have, I just didn't want to keep that one even though I liked the formula. Then my two wands. I don't love these because they lack pigmentation and they're too shimmery. The one from e.l.f. is the Halo Glow in Candlelit. It's just too shimmery. It's like metallic. I don't like when something is metallic but doesn't have enough base pigment, and that's what this is for me. So, and it also kind of looks like a little gray, like depending upon how my hand is. It's just not my thing. Same thing with the one from Tarte. Not enough base pigment. By the time you rub this in, it's like a glistening cheek with not a lot of pigment. So I think Charlotte does it way better. And even though I was telling you guys her high blush and the shimmer finish emphasizes texture, it does it with pigment. So it's like, I can handle that. I just can't handle it like this when it's all sheen and nothing else once you like blend it into the cheeks. So I kept those because they're dupes and fairly popular, but I don't want them in my personal collection because I won't reach for them. Last but not least, my two in the liquid form are from Rare Beauty, the Soft Pinch blushes. I know these are really popular. I just find these look, because I think they're both in the matte finish, completely flat on my cheeks. The Juvia's Place doesn't look flat. The ones from Moira don't look flat, but these look flat on me, and I could never get them to look right. This one is in Grace, so because they're super popular, I've held on to them. I don't know what my problem is. I maybe can't work with this formula, or I just never figured out how to use it because I didn't try hard enough the way that I did with the Juvia's Place ones. But now, because I have the Juvia's Place ones and the Moira ones, I would prefer to reach for those. Plus, don't love this shade. This is so pigmented no matter how I cut it. I also don't love this one. I want to say this one is Enjoy. I hate to hate on them, but yeah, they just look super flat on me. I don't know why. They just lack dimension once I blend them in. But do you see how, like, once it dries down, do you see how flat looking it is? Like, no dimension. It just sits on my cheeks like in this super flat way. Don't want them in my permanent collection because I would rather reach for the other ones that I was showing you guys. And that is everything, you guys. I hope you are sticking until the end. I hope this was fun. This was basically a swatch marathon. I've gone through all 33 wet wipes in doing this video. I will not be linking any of the products in the description box because that would take me 4.5 days. However, if you guys are interested in any of the products and I didn't go over shade, or you missed the shade when I called it out, or couldn't understand it because my voice sucks right now, let me know. I will be happy to let you know what the shade is in the comments. I do get questions like that. So happy to do that for you guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to like the video and leave a comment, whatever, all that good stuff. I'm out of here, you guys, and I hope to catch you all in my next video. Bye, guys.